Chapter 2060. You were the one who injured Yaoshua's hand? Su Zimo asked softly with a calm expression. I. Lolo's body began to tremble uncontrollably as he opened his mouth slightly, as though he wanted to explain something. Yes or no? Su Zimo looked at Lolo with a torch-like gaze and asked slowly. These 4 words, each word, seemed to have the power to pound Luoao's chest with 10,000 pounds of force. Luoao wanted to remain silent, to explain and to lie. However, he could not defend himself against Su Zimo's gaze, and could not control himself at all. Opening his mouth slightly, he spat out a single word. Yes. You can die now then, Su Zimo said indifferently. As soon as he said that, streams of scarlet light burst out from Luoao's body, bursting out of his body. Shen Huang's heart skipped a beat. Earlier on, he was already fully focused and prepared to save Lolo at any moment. However, before he could see any signs of Su Zimo attacking, Lolo was already on the brink of death. What sort of technique was that? There were no dermic arts, spirit consciousness fluctuations, power of divine powers, visual techniques, or sound domain secret skills. A single sentence from the martial dominator was enough to cause such a terrifying scene to appear on Luoao's body. With a pained expression, Lolo let out a tragic cry and channeled his spirit consciousness wildly, releasing supreme divine powers one after another. 3 heads, 6 arms. Endless vitality. God nation in palm. Even his primordial spirit could no longer endure the burden after unleashing 3 exceptional skills in an instant. Tiny cracks began to appear on his primordial spirit. However, Lolo could not be bothered anymore. The pain on his essence spirit was not even 1,000th of the pain in his body. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Lolo's body, which was originally filled with streaks of red light, began to glow. However, after he unleashed the 3 peerless divine abilities, the red light became even brighter, as if it had been replenished. The red light had rapidly transformed into a scarlet flame. This was karmic fire. Karmic fire was not a divine art. It was born from karma, but it could burn divine arts. Back then, Wu Dao's original body had comprehended the red lotus karmic fire in the Kunlun ruins. That was why he was able to refine countless divine abilities and improve his cultivation. Lolo's entire life was plagued by bad karma. With just a thought from Su Zimo, endless karmic fire would ignite in his body. Lolo didn't react in time, and Shen Huang didn't notice it either. This was because Su Zimo did not use any Dharma incantation, nor did he activate his divine sense, nor did he release any secret techniques. With a single thought, the karmic fire burned his body. If Lolo did not activate his divine powers, he might not have attracted such a ferocious karmic fire. The power of divine powers could not suppress the karmic fire at all. It would only cause it to burn even more fiercely. Even though it was endless and surged with endless vitality, it was difficult to extinguish the karmic fire. Endless vitality was also a divine power. Divine powers were no match for karmic fire. Luoao's mouth was wide open. His facial features were twisted, and his expression was ferocious. The karmic fire burning on his body burned his hair, skin, flesh, bones, organs, and essence until they were bright red. Right in front of everyone, Lolo's body was completely engulfed by the karmic fire. Before long, the karmic fire gradually extinguished. Lolo's figure had already vanished, leaving behind a gigantic demonic red lotus on the ground. The entire process was long and took less than 10 breaths. Lolo was incinerated by the karmic fire, and even his essence spirit could not escape. In the end, only a red lotus mark was left on the ground. Seeing this scene, the people of Heaven Wasteland Domain were finally able to vent their anger. As for the Protoss camp, it was silent. Initially, they had made a comeback with a domineering aura, and were prepared to crush Tianhuang mainland in one go. Their cavalry would crush and slaughter wantonly. But now, seeing such a method, every member of the God clan could not help but feel a tinge of apprehension and fear. Clap! Clap! Suddenly, Shen Huang clapped his hands gently and praised with a smile. What a great method! Upon hearing that, many Protoss were shocked. Fortunately, there were still God Emperors in front of them. Su Zimo's gaze shifted, and he looked at the corpses that were strewn all over Kunlun ruins. He looked at the scarlet river of blood that was still warm in the god-slaying canyon, and the millions of living beings that were killed by Shenhuang in 3 steps between the 2 armies. In less than a day, nearly 10 million living beings were buried in Kunlun ruins forever. If he had not returned in time, even more living beings on Tianhuang mainland would have died. A hint of sorrow and killing intent flashed through the depths of Su Zimo's eyes. He turned his head slightly and looked at Shenhuang for the first time. That gaze did not have any deterrence. It was calm and clear like water. However, for some reason, the moment that gaze looked over, Shenhuang felt his hair stand on end and his scalp tingle. He finally experienced the indescribable fear and irresistible pressure that Lo felt when he faced Su Zimo. The blood debt of the millions of living beings on Tianhuang mainland will be on your head. Su Zimo glanced at Shenhuang indifferently. You can die too. The moment he said that, scarlet flames surged from Shenhuang's body as well. Ah! Shenhuang shrieked in pain with a tragic expression. He finally felt the pain of Lo before his death. It was as though there were billions of ants gnawing on his flesh, bones, and organs. Instantly, Shenhuang fell into a frenzy and scratched his body wildly. Wherever his fingertips passed, bloody marks appeared and divine blood gushed out. The golden divine blood contained an incomparably powerful power. However, it could not extinguish the karmic fire, and only obstructed its burning slightly. Shenhuang regained a brief moment of clarity. He did not dare to use his divine powers, and channeled his spirit consciousness into the golden crown on his head. Swoosh! Around the golden crown, 8 sparkling and translucent gems were embedded. At that moment, a milky white luster surged from the gems. It was sacred and flawless as it scattered from the top of his head like a waterfall, washing Shenhuang's body. Buzz! 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 The karmic fire in Shenhuang's body let out a sizzling sound under the envelopment of the milky white luster, and gradually extinguished. Shenhuang panted heavily after escaping death. Although the karmic fire was extinguished, his flesh, organs and bones were still injured by the karmic fire, and were burned bright red. Shenhuang's skin had already cracked and demonic red lotuses bloomed one after another. It was fortunate that he had the god's crown. Otherwise he would have died without a doubt. Oh! Su Zimo raised his brows slightly. Wu Dao's furnace smelted all dermic divine powers. The milky white luster that surged from the god's crown was a power that he had never seen before. That power could extinguish the karmic fire. The divine blood in Shenhuang's body surged. With the help of the god's crown, his injuries healed in the blink of an eye. Fufufu! When he saw that the god's crown could suppress the karmic fire, Shenhuang roared with laughter and regained his confidence. Ancient Wu Huang is nothing much. Is that so? Su Zimo's expression was indifferent. He held Ji Yaoshua's hand and walked slowly toward Shenhuang. Be careful. Don't bring me along, Ji Yaoshua said softly. She was a little worried about Su Zimo, and wanted Su Zimo to let go of his hand and fight with all his might. It's fine. Su Zimo smiled. He was still holding Ji Yaoshua's hand. He shook his head and said, if he can take a punch from me, he'll be considered capable. Chapter 2061. If he can take a punch from me, he'll be considered capable. Hearing that, Ji Yaoshua was relieved and could not help but smile. She allowed Su Zimo to hold her hand and walked towards Shenhuang. Everyone from Tianhuang mainland was excited, and their eyes were filled with endless anticipation. That was the boldness of eternal Wu Huang. A single sentence was enough to make one's blood boil. When the emperor heard this, his handsome face instantly turned ashen and gloomy. Since he started cultivating until now, when had he ever heard such arrogant words? It was no longer a provocation or contempt. It was complete disregard. As the Shenhuang of the continent of gods, he thought that his combat strength was unparalleled, and had reached the peak of a small world. When had he ever been insulted as such? Wu Huang! Shenhuang channeled his blood qi slowly and said coldly, you're too arrogant. This is a small world. No matter what cultivation realm you're at, there's a limit to the power you can unleash. Your karmic fire can no longer hurt me. I don't believe that I can't even take a punch from you. As soon as he said that, The blood qi in Shenhuang's body surged and rose to its peak rapidly. Endless golden light shone from his body like a blazing sun that emitted a blinding brilliance. Splash! His divine blood surged like a tidal wave. When Shenhuang first set foot on Tianhuang mainland, even the emperors of Tianhuang mainland could not withstand the golden light of his blood qi that shone from his body. However, at this moment, the golden light seemed to be restrained by an invisible force and shrunk continuously. It could only flicker on the surface of Shenhuang's body. Su Zimo's blood qi rose slowly as well. There seemed to be a gigantic furnace burning fiercely in his body. Before Shenhuang's blood qi golden light could shine over, it was burned into nothingness by Su Zimo's blood qi. The space around Su Zimo's body was distorted. As for Ji Yaoxue, she did not feel uncomfortable at all beside Su Zimo. Instead, it was as though a warm ray of sunlight shone on her body. It was extremely comfortable. Su Zimo merely walked towards Shenhuang one step at a time. The golden blood qi in Shenhuang's body seemed to be suppressed by an incomparably powerful aura and could not break free. The sound of tides in Shenhuang's body had already disappeared. The speed of his bloodline circulation slowed down. Initially, Shenhuang was a blazing sun. However, as Su Zimo approached, his blazing sun gradually shrank into a fireball. Veins popped on Shenhuang's forehead and neck. If he could not break free, his blood qi would be completely suppressed by Su Zimo before he could even attack. Ah! Shenhuang reared his head and roared into the skies. Streams of milky white light flowed down from the crown of God once more. That light allowed Shenhuang to obtain temporary relief. Shenhuang was invigorated and burst forth with his blood qi. The sound of tides appeared once more. His body floated up slowly, and a gigantic phantom appeared beneath him. It was an ancient and mysterious pyramid built with gigantic rocks. It was golden and natural and shone with golden light with a wanton might. At the bottom of this pyramid, there were densely packed creatures kneeling. There were all kinds of races, hundreds of millions of them, and one couldn't see the end of them. Every single living being had their palms pressed together and looked up at the pyramid above piously, chanting prayers continuously. Above the heads of these creatures, golden threads spread out and finally converged into the pyramid. Shenhuang stood at the top of the pyramid and spread his arms. Through the pyramid beneath him, he absorbed a mysterious power from the billions of living beings endlessly, and the golden light in his body intensified. His aura was rising continuously. The energy fluctuations emitted from his body turned increasingly terrifying as well. At that moment, Shenhuang wore the crown of God and trampled on billions of living beings, as though he was the only god in the world. It was the bloodline phenomenon of a Protoss. How could this be? The emperors of Tianhuang mainland exclaimed, as though they sensed something. Above their heads, golden threads of power were channeled towards the pyramid beneath Shenhuang's feet as well. Shenhuang's bloodline phenomenon had turned the entire world into his divine kingdom and absorbed the power of all living beings in the world. Wu Huang, my bloodline phenomenon has fused with my peerless divine power, the divine kingdom in Palm. This entire world is my kingdom. All of you in Tianhuang mainland are my subjects. How are you going to fight against me? Standing on the pyramid, Shenhuang's dignified voice spread in all directions. Your divine kingdom is merely a speck of dust in my furnace. How are you going to fight against me? Right then Su Zimo's voice sounded. Shenhuang's expression changed starkly. Suddenly, he realized that Su Zimo had already vanished from his divine kingdom unknowingly. As for Su Zimo's voice, it came from all directions and seemed to be outside his divine kingdom. Immediately after, be it everyone from Tianhuang mainland or the Protoss army, all of them witnessed a strange and terrifying sight. Shenhuang's divine kingdom seemed to be shrinking. Outside the divine kingdom, there was a gigantic furnace that enveloped the divine kingdom. Outside the furnace, flames burned furiously. Shenhuang's divine kingdom contained heaven and earth and absorbed the power of all living beings. However, Su Zimo's Wu Dao furnace devoured the divine kingdom and burned furiously, wanting to burn it into ashes. Shenhuang's divine kingdom had an extremely high intent and contained heaven and earth. However, Su Zimo's Wu Dao furnace was superior. The temperature within the divine kingdom rose continuously. Flames burst forth from the gigantic pyramid. The divine emperor paled in fright. Right then, Su Zimo suddenly appeared in front of him. Holding Ji Yaoshua's hand with his left hand, he clenched his right fist and punched toward Shen Huang. Rumble! Boom! Boom! Blood surged within Su Zimo's body. It was not the sound of a tsunami, but more like raging waves crashing against the shore. It was massive and shuddering. Shen Huang roared and channeled all the power within his body as well. His golden blood qi converged into a single point as he waved his golden fist and punched toward Su Zimo. Boom! The two fists collided, and an earth-shattering explosion erupted. At that instant, the rare phenomenon in the surroundings vanished into thin air. Su Zimo and Shen Huang returned to Tianhuang mainland once more. The divine kingdom and furnace had vanished. Their fists collided motionlessly. The world was silent. Everyone held their breaths and waited for the final outcome. Crack! 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 Suddenly, a series of faint cracking sounds could be heard from the battlefield. However, it sounded like thunder in everyone's ears. Cracks appeared on Shen Huang's face one after another. Those cracks extended to his entire body rapidly, under everyone's watchful eyes. The divine emperor's body instantly exploded into a cloud of golden blood mist. The moment the golden blood mist appeared, it was refined and turned into ashes once more. Emperors could be reborn from a single drop of blood. But now, Shen Huang did not even have a single drop of divine blood left. The Protoss army watched everything in a daze, unable to accept it for a moment. Defeated. Shen Huang had been utterly defeated. It was as Wu Huang had said. He could not even withstand a single punch from him. Chapter 2062. Ever since Shen Huang became the emperor of the continent of gods, his combat strength was heaven-defying and invincible in the lower realm. Even the high priest who had lived for countless years in the central divine city of the continent of gods had said that Shen Huang was the most powerful Shen Huang in the history of the Protoss. But now, Shen Huang's body had been shattered by Emperor Araki Takeshi's punch. Not even a drop of divine blood was left. Wu Huang's punch not only landed heavily on Shen Huang's body, but it also shattered the confidence and pride of the Protoss army. Actually, Shen Huang was right. Wu Dao's true body was in the lower realm. Although his cultivation realm was comparable to an earth immortal of the upper realm, he did not dare to use his full strength. If he used the power of an earth immortal, he would not even need to make a move. Just a glance would be enough to kill Shen Huang. However, at the same time, he would also attract the backlash of the laws of heaven and earth. Therefore, Wu Dao's true body just now's attack did not exceed the upper limit of the lower realm's strength, nor did it reach the level of a mystic immortal of the upper realm. Even so, Shen Huang could not withstand a punch from Wu Dao's true body. Whoosh! Suddenly, the crown of gods floating in the air suddenly turned into a golden light and sped toward the west. Su Zimo's eyes turned, and a huge pressure descended, suppressing the crown of gods. The space around the crown of gods seemed to be imprisoned by an invisible force. Whoosh! The 8 gems of the crown of gods once again flowed with milky white light. The crown of gods' body trembled, and it actually broke free from Su Zimo's divine sense pressure. In an instant, it fled thousands of kilometers deep into the Kunlun ruins and fled towards the 5-colored cave that connected to the continent of God. He's not dead. Su Zimo sneered. Shen Huang's primordial spirit had chosen to escape into the crown of gods to avoid the calamity. At this moment, Shen Huang's primordial spirit used the crown of gods to escape. It was obvious that he wanted to escape back to the continent of gods. The power contained within the crown of God was rather strange. It was actually able to break free from Su Zimo's spiritual consciousness suppression, which surprised him. Aren't you going to chase after them? Ji Yaoshua watched as Shen Huang fled. She was a little worried. If such a powerful enemy could not be eliminated, it would become a huge disaster for the infinite wasteland domain in the future. I'm fine. Su Zimo shook his head and said, he doesn't have divine blood, so it's hard for him to reconstruct his corporeal body. After pausing for a moment, Su Zimo looked to the west and said, plus, even if he didn't run back, I'm going to take a look at the godly continent. The blood debt of the millions of living beings in Tianhuang mainland must be repaid with divine blood. Su Zimo was truly enraged this time. Because of his relationship with Nian Qi, he wasn't too wary of the Protoss. To think that the invasion of the Protoss this time round would cause such heavy damage to Tianhuang mainland. More importantly, Ji Yaoshue was injured, and some of his old friends of Tianhuang mainland were almost killed as well. If he had returned a little later, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Back then, Nian Qi was conferred the title of emperor and came to kneel down to the gods to complete his redemption. If not for Nian Qi, Su Zimo was prepared to head to the western continent of gods alone after quelling the blood demon catastrophe more than 2,000 years ago and wreak havoc. Su Zimo turned around and looked at the Cloud Dragon Emperor and the others of Tianhuang mainland before extending his palm. An extremely dense life force condensed in his palm as the power of divine power surged and rumbled. It was endless. Su Zimo's spirit consciousness moved, and he waved his palm gently in midair, muttering softly, summoning wind and rain. Swoosh! A gentle breeze blew and drizzled. The wind contained a tremendous amount of life force, as though it was a spring breeze that was full of vitality. The withered plants on the ground that had been soaked in blood began to grow again under the gentle breeze. The injuries of the people of Tianhuang mainland were also alleviated significantly. In the sky, it was drizzling with a dark green color. As the raindrops fell on the bodies of the people of Tianhuang mainland, their wounds healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even the wounds on the emperors of Tianhuang mainland that were penetrated by Shenhuang's golden light were healing. Wu Dao's true body had fused two supreme divine powers and was endless in vitality. With the momentum of summoning wind and rain, he descended and healed the injuries of the thousands of living beings of Tianhuang mainland. Such a method could be considered a miracle. Su Zimo looked at the people of Tianhuang mainland and asked, "Do you want to follow me to the western continent to take a look?" Upon hearing that, the living beings of Tianhuang mainland were in an uproar. The martial dominator was implying that he was going to lead them to the west, to the godly continent. Of course. Little Fatty laughed and was the first to stand out. "I've never seen what the godly mainland looks like in my life. Let's go to the godly mainland too and kill them all." The people of Tianhuang mainland shouted loudly, "Lowly race, how dare you invade the territory of the Protoss? You will be judged by God." A commander of the Protoss army stood out and said loudly. Another Protoss in black robes said coldly, "No foreign race can set foot on the godly mainland and leave alive." "Wu Huang, I advise you to think carefully," a Protoss commander said in a deep voice. "If you bring people into the godly mainland now, it's equivalent to declaring war on the Protoss. You have to think carefully. Declaring war on the Protoss is a disaster for you and Tianhuang mainland." The Blue Dragon Emperor scolded. "So what if I declare war? It's the Protoss who declared war on Tianhuang mainland first." Su Zimo slowly turned around and looked at the vast Protoss army opposite him. He said indifferently, "I don't know what you're talking about. But I know one thing. To you I'm a disaster." Before he finished speaking, Su Zimo held Ji Yaoshue's hand and flew toward the western continent. He didn't even look at the Protoss army below him. The Protoss army was slightly stunned. Was Wu Huang of Tianhuang mainland going to let them go just like that? At that moment, Su Zimo took a step forward in midair, and a huge green lotus flower appeared under his feet. The green lotus flower emitted rays of divine light. It was sacred and flawless. The bodies of the Protoss enveloped by the green lotus exploded one after another, turning into clouds of blood mist. They were washed away by the green light released by the green lotus flower and turned into nothingness. Even the emperor of the Protoss was not spared and died on the spot. Su Zimo took a second step, and another huge green lotus flower appeared under his feet. Large patches of Protoss were purified by the green lotus flower. With every step Su Zimo took, a green lotus flower would appear under his feet. Flowers rained down from the sky, and golden lotuses bloomed from the ground. These were two Buddhist mystical abilities that were extremely powerful. If one could comprehend these two mystical abilities to the extreme, they would be able to comprehend one of the Buddhist mystical abilities. Lotus blooming with every step. Everything within one step would become a pure land. All foreign beings within this step would be purified by Qinglian and turned into a pure land of Buddhism. There were no exceptions. When Su Zimo held Ji Yaoshua's hand and walked into the depths of Kunlun ruins, the Protoss army behind him had been purified by Qinglian and turned into dust, forever buried in Kunlun ruins. Chapter 2063. Su Zimo and Ji Yaoshua led the Tianhuang cultivators into the colorful cave and experienced a strange feeling. It was as if a long time had passed, but also as if it had only been a few breaths. The Tianhuang cultivators felt their eyes brighten. They had already left Tianhuang and entered another world. An unfamiliar, ancient, solemn, and dignified aura rushed toward them. The godly mainland. Aliens. At this moment, a loud shout came from the front. There were also many Protoss guarding this space, note on the godly mainland. Now that they saw Su Zimo and the other Tianhuang cultivators enter the godly mainland, they were all shocked. All the Protoss knew that Shen Huang was leading the Protoss army to flatten Tianhuang and rule it with the faith of the Protoss. But not long ago, a golden light flew out of this space node and fled toward the central divine city. Most of the Protoss didn't see what it was. Only some of the Protoss emperors guarding the border vaguely recognized it. It was the supreme artifact of the Protoss, the godly crown. This godly crown came from the upper realm and was more honorable than the 4 ruling artifacts of the Protoss. Only Shen Huang was qualified to wear it and control it. The emperor of the Protoss emperors at the border had a bad feeling. Unless something major happened, Shen Huang would always wear the godly crown. Could it be that something big had happened? The emperor of the Protoss then denied this speculation. Before Shen Huang left, the Protoss's high priest used his blood essence to release the Protoss's secret technique, the Great Prophecy Technique, to predict good and bad luck. The result of the Great Prophecy Technique was great luck. Shen Huang would sweep across Tianhuang. No living creature, no obstacle, could stop the Protoss from conquering Tianhuang. Not only the emperor of the Protoss, but all the other Protoss didn't doubt the high priest's prophecy at all. Shen Huang was the ruler of the godly continent. The position of the high priestess was unique. She was the wise one of the Protoss, and even Shen Huang had to be respectful to her. This was because the Protoss high priestess possessed the most mysterious secret technique of the Protoss, the Great Prophecy Technique. In the primordial age, the Protoss invaded Heaven Wasteland. Due to the arrogance and confidence of Shen Huang back then, he didn't ask the high priest to come out of seclusion and acted on his own initiative. In the end, he suffered a crushing defeat. The outcome of the Great Prophecy spell would never be wrong. This was the common understanding of the Protoss. With that in mind, the Emperor of Protoss didn't react. It was not until he saw Su Zimo and the others from Heaven Wasteland domain appear in front of him that he realized that something big had happened. Outsiders. The Emperor of Protoss slowly rose into the air and came to the front of Su Zimo. With a cold expression he slowly said, "Scram. Lowly and filthy creatures, like you are not allowed to set foot on the continent of gods. The outsiders are here. Kill them." The Protoss at the border of the continent of gods noticed the people from Heaven Wasteland domain. They let out a series of roars and charged toward them with murderous intent. The deep-rooted arrogance in the blood of the Protoss made their first reaction, when they saw the people from Heaven Wasteland domain, was to look down on them. Su Zimo's expression was indifferent. He didn't even look at the Emperor of Protoss opposite him. He just walked forward side by side with Ji Yaoshua. He reached out his hand and gently clenched his fist in the direction of the Emperor of Protoss from afar. Boom! The space around this sovereign of the god race collapsed in an instant. Under everyone's gaze, the Emperor of Protoss was crushed by a terrifying force that suddenly appeared and turned into a cloud of blood mist. His body and soul were destroyed. The Protoss at the border had just gathered. Before they could rush over, they saw this scene. The Protoss let out a series of exclamations. Their faces were filled with horror. The Emperor of Protoss died just like that. He couldn't even withstand one attack from the other party. You, who are you? An ancestral god tried his best to suppress the fear in his heart and questioned Su Zimo and the others loudly. I am Araki Takeshi. I'm here to collect a blood debt from the Protoss. Su Zimo said as he flicked his finger. Chi, 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 chi. White sword energy burst forth from his fingertip and swarmed toward the Protoss army opposite him. Heaven-slaying sword energy, 108,000 swords. In the hands of Wu Dao's true body, there were more than 108,000 swords of heaven-slaying sword energy. It was practically endless. Killing intent shook the heavens and shifted the stars. Even the Emperor of Protoss couldn't withstand one attack from Su Zimo. In the face of the heaven-slaying sword energy released by Su Zimo, the remaining Protoss army was even more fragile. Their lives were worthless. What divine blood? What vision? What divine artifact? What divine ability? All of their trump cards couldn't withstand a single heaven-slaying sword energy. Wu Dao's true body's understanding of the heaven-slaying sword energy far exceeded 2,000 years ago. Its power was naturally terrifying. Even a few ancestral gods at the border of God mainland had their glabella pierced by a sword energy and died. The people of Tianhuang mainland originally intended to attack and have a fierce battle with the army of God mainland. But soon, they realized that they didn't need to move at all. All they had to do was follow behind Wu Huang, and that was enough. Su Zimo drove straight in without stopping. The people of Tianhuang mainland followed closely and looked around. God mainland had its own unique civilization. The buildings, mountains, rivers, and even trees on this land were far from Tianhuang mainland. There were billions of small kiliocosms, and each small kiliocosm gave birth to different civilizations and living beings. Along the way, Protoss experts stood out from time to time, wanting to block the path of the people of Tianhuang mainland. However, they were casually killed by Su Zimo. Su Zimo wanted to lead the people of Tianhuang mainland west and kill their way into the central divine city. He wanted to kill Shenhuang under the watch of the Protoss. He wanted to use the blood of the Protoss to leave an indelible mark on this land and this race. That mark was called fear. At the same time, in the central divine city, this divine city had experienced countless years and remained standing. The city walls shone with a golden metallic luster, sacred and flawless with distinct edges. This divine city was the center of God mainland. At that moment, a golden light flew into the divine city and barged into the palace where Shenhuang cultivated. No one could stop it. Hurry and call the high priest to come out of seclusion. I need time to refine my body. The Protoss guards had just rushed over when they heard Shenhuang's extremely weak voice. After saying this, Shenhuang's voice disappeared. The many God clan guards exchanged glances with each other, all of them looking confused. In their hearts, Shenhuang was supreme and invincible. Who could break Shenhuang's body? What the hell happened? I'll go and inform the high priest. At that moment, a Protoss guard said, and was about to run toward the altar. Just as he turned around, he saw a white-haired old man in a red robe, holding a white staff, standing not far away and looking toward the east. This red-robed old man was the Protoss high priest. No one knew when the high priest had appeared. How is this possible? The wrinkles on the high priest's face seemed to have deepened. He murmured repeatedly, "My great prophecy didn't make a mistake. High priest, what happened?" Just now, Shenhuang seemed to. A Protoss guard wanted to say something but stopped. The high priest's expression was solemn. He said slowly, "Purple Chi from the East Protoss. I'm afraid a great calamity will befall them." Bookhouse Reading Website. Chapter 2064. Su Zimo led the group of Tianhuang mainland west, and before long, they saw the first ancient city ahead. In front of the ancient city, there were already many Protoss knights and mages arranged in a formation. The knights were in front, and the mages were at the back. Although there were only a few thousand of them, the weakest among them was at the conjoint body realm. Among the crowd, there was even a mage who was at the Emperor realm. Eastern barbarians, stop in your tracks. The leading Protoss knight wielded a sword and shouted at Su Zimo and the others. Outsiders from Tianhuang mainland, since you've stepped into the territory of the Protoss, let the light of the Protoss purify your filthy souls and send you to hell. The law overlord standing at the back waved the staff in his hand and chanted in an ancient language. A powerful energy fluctuation spread out in midair. A blazing light spread out from the tip of the law overlord's staff and entered the heads of everyone from Tianhuang mainland, scattering down a large rain of light. Every drop of this rain of light could kill a low-level emperor. Kill! The many Protoss knights at the front roared and charged towards the group of Tianhuang mainland as well. Su Zimo harumphed coldly. The moment he said that, the law overlord froze in midair. He widened his eyes, which were filled with shock and fear. Streaks of blood appeared on his face. The law overlord's body was relatively weak, and he stood at the back to prevent his body from being fatally injured. However, he did not expect his body to be unable to withstand a single harumph from Su Zimo. The golden armor of the Protoss knights at the front exploded as well. How dare a firefly compete with the moon? Su Zimo hollered softly and extended his palm. It was as though he was holding a ball of purple light in his palm. Su Zimo clenched his fist. Buzz! This ball of light exploded, and countless purple lights burst out from the gaps between his fingers, spreading out in all directions. The light rain in the air was swept by these purple lights, and instantly evaporated. Before the many Protoss knights at the front could get close, they were swept by a large expanse of purple light, and fell from the sky one after another. Before they even landed on the ground, these Protoss knights had already turned into corpses. The law overlord stood alone in the air. There were no longer any Protoss knights around him to protect him. Without even looking at him, Su Zimo continued to lead the people of Heaven Wasteland domain forward. Just now, the sound domain secret technique he released was enough to shatter the Emperor's primordial spirit. Bang! The law overlord's physical body was torn apart, and his Yuan spirit was covered in cracks. It was dim and lifeless as it slowly dissipated. There were many Protoss standing on the walls of the ancient city. These Protoss were weak, and most of them had yet to reach the body integration realm. However, these Protoss gazed at Su Zimo without the slightest bit of fear. Instead, their gazes were filled with provocation. This confidence and arrogance had already seeped into their bones. Outsider, do you know what you're doing? Ignorant barbarian, you're killing a god. Godslayers will definitely receive the judgment of the gods on the continent of gods, and receive divine punishment. Suddenly, a series of shouts sounded from the ancient city. Godslayers will definitely receive the judgment of the gods, and receive divine punishment. In the massive ancient city, tens of millions of Protoss gathered together, and let out a series of shouts that shook the 9 heavens, in a majestic manner. Ha 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 ha. Su Zimo suddenly reared his head in laughter. His laughter reverberated throughout the world, and drowned out the shouts of the tens of millions of Protoss. In an instant, it was as if Su Zimo's laughter was the only thing left in this world. Crack! 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 Huge cracks appeared on the walls of the ancient city. Even these indestructible walls that had endured the passage of time could not withstand Su Zimo's laughter. Judgment of the gods? Divine punishment? Su Zimo retracted his smile and looked at the many Protoss in the ancient city opposite him, saying slowly, "In this place I'm the god." The moment he said that, the ancient city collapsed, as though it could not withstand such a terrifying aura. Countless Protoss were buried in the dust and let out tragic cries. Su Zimo's spirit consciousness moved and swept through the ruins of the ancient city, capturing all the conjoint body mighty figures and ancestor gods hidden in the ancient city. With a single thought, all those Protoss mighty figures and ancestor gods died on the spot. Su Zimo led everyone from Tianhuang mainland and continued heading west. Central God City. Many experts of the Protoss gathered beside the high priest, and all of them looked towards the east. At that moment, it was not only the high priest. Everyone in the God City could clearly see the terrifying scene in the east. A stream of purple chi was approaching slowly from the east. It was getting denser and denser, and even dyed the skies in the east a different color. Although they were far away, every Protoss in the central God City could feel an unstoppable pressure. High Priest, an emperor of the Protoss said in a deep voice, "Let us fight outside the city. The Light Knight army will definitely be able to kill these foreign races." "No. If we scatter our forces now, we'll be sending ourselves to our deaths. The high priest shook his head. Everyone listen to my orders. Gather in the central city and await the final battle. After a brief pause, the high priest asked again, has anyone informed the temple? We've already informed them. They'll be here soon. Behind the high priest, a little girl in red robes who was around 12 or 13 years old replied softly. All right. The high priest was slightly relieved. Once the divine emperor's body is reconstructed, we'll join forces with the temple knights and me. With the combined might of the city, we'll take on this Tianhuang mainland expert. Grandpa High Priest, do you think this Tianhuang elite is the Wu Huang that Sister Nianqi mentioned? The girl suddenly asked. Wu Huang. The high priest was dazed for a moment. The words that Nianqi said to him before he ascended flashed across his mind. Never, ever invade Tianhuang again. There was an elite that the godly mainland could not withstand. In fact, when Nianqi returned from Tianhuang and was crowned emperor, other than Nianqi's own talent, the high priest also played a part in it. In his great prophecy technique, he predicted that the Protoss would face a great calamity, and the way to overcome it lay with Nianqi. That was the reason why Nianqi was able to overcome the objections of the masses and become Shenhuang eventually with his help. The high priest did not stop Nianqi from joining forces with Tianhuang to complete his redemption. Later on, news from Tianhuang also verified his great prophecy technique. A woman appeared on Tianhuang and killed experts of the upper world consecutively. Eventually, she even perfected the laws of heaven and earth of Tianhuang before ascending. When that woman appeared, even the gods in one of the most ancient and secretive places on the godly continent were so scared that they didn't even dare to breathe. Could it be Wu Huang? The girl asked again, as though she had something on her mind. Those memories flashed through the high priest's mind, and he gradually snapped out of his stupor. When he heard the girl's question, he shook his head. I don't know either. He did not know who this Tianhuang elite was. However, he knew one thing. His great prophecy technique did not detect the existence of such a terrifying expert on Tianhuang, nor did it predict what would happen today. The ancient secret skills of the Protoss were useless against this person. Chapter 2065. Boom. Another ancient city was destroyed by Su Zimo. Purple clouds filled the sky, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Purple lightning struck down and turned the emperors, ancestral gods, and emperors in the city into ashes. This was no ordinary power of lightning. This purple lightning was nurturing the martial Dao true body's comprehension of tribulation. Under the cover of the purple heavenly tribulation, the divine city was reduced to ruins. This was the 10th city that Su Zimo had destroyed. Fire, flood, earth cracking, sky collapsing, ice. All kinds of terrible disasters fell on the land of gods. Wu Dao's true body could use these powerful divine powers at will. Even the most ordinary Dharma spells were destructive to the Protoss. Su Zimo led the people of planet Tianhuang westward. Any Protoss who dared to stop him was killed with a snap of his fingers. The people of planet Tianhuang didn't do anything from the beginning to the end. The people of planet Tianhuang were already used to this. The Protoss resisted and fought back arrogantly at the beginning. But now, these Protoss only had fear and panic left. They shouted and ran away. In the face of absolute power, these god race clansmen were no different from any other living being in a panic. The noble pride of the Protoss was crushed by Su Zimo. I don't believe it. A Protoss with disheveled hair struggled out of the dust and rose to the sky. He yelled at Su Zimo, "You're just a lowly human with a weak bloodline. How can you compare to me, a Protoss?" Su Zimo didn't even do anything. He just glanced at this person. The bloodline in this Protoss's body evaporated and turned into nothingness. Who opened the gate of hell and released the demons of the east? Everyone run for your lives. Darkness is coming. Some Protoss fell into the dust and lost their souls. Su Zimo led the people of planet Tianhuang and continued forward, ignoring these Protoss. He still had some restraint in his attacks. Unless some Protoss wanted to die and challenged him. Otherwise, he would only kill the ancestral gods and emperors in every city they passed by. Su Zimo wanted to kill all the ancestral gods and emperors on the land of gods. The demons of hell are heading west. Everyone go to the central divine city. The high priest and Shen Huang are gathering an army there. They're ready to fight the demons to the death. The high priest has sent an oracle. Everyone go to the central divine city. The high priest and the divine king are in the central divine city. They are ready to kill the demon king from Tianhuang region and expel the darkness. One by one, news after another, the news. More and more gods were fleeing, abandoning the city. In the end, Su Zimo led everyone from Tianhuang mainland straight through the land of God, without encountering any resistance. They headed west, and were getting closer and closer to the central divine city. Wu Huang is fighting all over the land of gods. He has a strong foundation. The storyteller pondered for a long time before standing up and calmly analyzing. Now that we're deep in the hinterland, if the Protoss Shen Huang gathers all the forces of the land of gods in one place, I'm afraid it'll be very troublesome. Our trip this time was a bit sudden, and we weren't prepared enough. If we rashly start a war, planet Tianhuang will suffer heavy losses. Su Zimo shook his head and said, "You don't have to do anything. Just watch from the side." The storyteller grinned slightly and took a deep breath. Wu Huang was implying that he wanted to fight against the entire land of gods and suppress a world by himself. The people of planet Tianhuang continued forward. Finally, they saw an unimaginably magnificent ancient city in front of them. Or this could no longer be considered a city. The ancient city walls stood tall and stretched along the horizon on both sides. There was no end at all. It was as if the continent was cut in half. Densely packed Protoss stood on the city walls. Some of these gods were wielding spears, some were wielding greatswords, some were wielding longbows, and some were wielding staves. Every single Protoss surged with golden blood chi and shone with a resplendent light. Their battle intent surged as they glared at the people of planet Tianhuang with murderous intent. Almost all the top experts of the land of gods were gathered here, ready to kill the people of planet Tianhuang. The number of Protoss in the central divine city had reached billions. In fact, there were even Protoss from all directions gathering in the central divine city. Kill, kill, kill. Within the central divine city, many god race beings broke out into cheers. One could imagine what kind of aura it was when billions of Protoss gathered together and roared at the sky with their blood boiling. The entire world was trembling. On the side of planet Tianhuang, even the storyteller, the Cloud Dragon Emperor, and the other emperors of planet Tianhuang were slightly shocked at this moment, let alone ordinary cultivators. Protoss were innately powerful. If the billions of Protoss swarmed together with the ancestor gods and emperors among them, even they would be drowned in an instant. The fact that the land of gods could constantly conquer other small worlds showed that it had a foundation that other worlds could not compare to. Think about it. Back in the day on planet Tianhuang, there were only a few tens of thousands of Protoss, but they had already become one of the primordial 9 races of planet Tianhuang, and the most terrifying force on planet Tianhuang. Now billions of Protoss were gathered in the central divine city. What a terrifying scene. Even though the people of planet Tianhuang had absolute confidence in Wu Huang, their confidence was shaken at this moment. The difference in strength between the two sides was too great. On the side of planet Tianhuang, the people of planet Tianhuang were aggressive all the way to the west like an unstoppable flood. However, when they reached the central divine city, they ran into a boundless golden ocean. This golden ocean was already enraged. Raging waves swept up, and it could surge over at any time and drown them. The people of planet Tianhuang were pale. Facing such a terrifying formation in the central divine city, many people were already terrified and did not dare to go forward. You guys can just stand here. Su Zimo glanced sideways and said to the people of planet Tianhuang behind him, Wu Huang will accompany you. The storyteller, Cloud Dragon Emperor, and the others hurriedly said, No need. Su Zimo shook his head and said, You guys can't help me. Just watch from here. With that, Su Zimo walked alone in the direction of the central divine city with a calm expression. Even in the face of such a huge formation of Protoss, Su Zimo's eyes were still calm and composed as he walked forward slowly. Billions of Protoss condensed into an invisible aura that was enough to crush everything. However, when this aura surged over and landed on Su Zimo, it disappeared silently and did not even ruffle his purple robe. As Su Zimo continued to approach, his aura rose rapidly. His black hair fluttered without wind, and his eyes seemed to be burning with flames. Su Zimo's footsteps were neither fast nor slow. However, every step he took in the air would cause a huge tremor. A spiderweb-like crack appeared in the void beneath his feet. The sky changed color and the earth shook. Chapter 2066. As Su Zimo got closer, his energy also rose. In the end, he was able to fight against billions of Protoss. Although the god race beings were shouting with killing intent, Su Zimo could sense a hint of fear in the depths of their eyes. They were afraid. For countless years, the Protoss had been killing everywhere and trampling countless creatures under their feet. They had never taken humans seriously, and yet, the human in front of them had reached a level they couldn't imagine. Suddenly, a man appeared on the city wall. He was wearing a loose red robe and holding a white wand. His hair was white, and his face was full of wrinkles. The old man's eyes were deep. Even though he was already past his prime, his deep blue eyes were still clear and bright. They flickered with the light of wisdom. Wu Huang, the old man said slowly, I'm the Grand Priest of the Protoss. I hope you can consider the big picture and take the people of planet Tianhuang back to your world to avoid this disastrous war. The Protoss has offended planet Tianhuang many times. I'm here to collect a debt. Su Zimo said. What happened back then is in the past, the Grand Priest said. 2,000 years ago, Nian Qi and Shen Huang also knelt in the God-slaying valley and prayed to the corpse of a god to complete their redemption. Okay. Su Zimo smiled and said, I won't pursue what happened back then. This time, the Protoss attacked planet Tianhuang again, and almost 10 million creatures died. How are the Protoss going to pay this debt of blood? Martial Monarch, you've destroyed many ancient cities on the godly continent on your journey to the west. I'm afraid you've killed millions of gods. We've already paid this debt of blood. The Grand Priest said. That's not enough. Su Zimo shook his head. What do you want? The High Priest asked. Su Zimo's expression was cold as he slowly said, I want the Protoss to repay this debt of blood tenfold. How dare you? At this moment an angry roar came from the divine city. Roar. Then a roar similar to a dragon's roar sounded majestic and angry. In the central divine city, a huge demonic beast slowly rose up. It had the head of a dragon but the body of a lizard. It had a pair of wings on its back, and flames were coming out of its mouth. Its eyes were ferocious, and it growled threateningly at Su Zimo. On the back of this demonic beast stood a man with a huge spear in his hand. He was wearing golden armor and had a terrifying aura. Heavens, it's actually a dragon knight from the temple. My Protoss dragon knight has appeared. Wu Huang must die. Cheers erupted from the divine city. When the Protoss saw this man, their morale was greatly boosted. In the legends of the Protoss, there was a type of Protoss knight that was the dragon knight. Only a divine dragon that had subdued the Protoss was qualified to become a dragon knight. During the Primordial War, almost all of the Protoss divine dragons had died in the God-slaying canyon at the hands of two gods. Since then, the Protoss divine dragons had disappeared from the continent of gods. The Protoss did not expect that there would be a legendary dragon knight in the divine city. Wu Huang. The high priest's gaze became deeper as he slowly said, I advise you to retreat as soon as possible. The foundation of the Protoss is not something you can imagine. The high priest's words seemed to have a deeper meaning. Why are you wasting words with a foreign race? The dragon knight said coldly, if a foreign race dares to step on the territory of the Protoss, they will suffer divine punishment. Boom! At this moment, a loud sound came from the center of the divine city. Wu Huang, today is the day you die. A majestic voice sounded. Then, a golden figure wearing a divine crown slowly rose and descended on the city wall. This person was Shen Huang, who had escaped from the Tianhuang continent. Shen Huang held a large sword in his right hand that was covered with pitch-black patterns. In his left hand was a pitch-black shield that surged with ink-like mist. In Shen Huang's hands were the Misfortune Sword and Calamity Shield of the 4 great divine artifacts. Su Zimo was slightly surprised. He had already refined the God King's divine blood. He didn't expect that in just a few days, the God King would once again condense a physical body. This was most likely due to the divine crown. Shen Huang is invincible. Supremacy. When the Protoss saw Shen Huang appear, they burst into cheers again. Now the 3 top Protoss experts, Shen Huang, the Dragon Knight, and the High Priest were gathered, causing the Protoss's aura to rise to the peak. Su Zimo's expression was calm. It had to be said that the power cultivated by these 3 Protoss had almost reached the limit of the lower realm's power. Even Qinglian's true body back then might not be able to win against the 3 of them. Unfortunately, they were facing Wu Dao's true body. This was an anomaly among the 3,000 worlds. Wu Dao's true body jumped out of the 3 realms and was not in the 5 elements. Even the Protoss's great prophecy technique could not detect his traces. Wu Huang, no matter how strong you are, there is a limit in this lower realm. The God Emperor said loudly. Your strength, I already know it in my heart. You can defeat me alone, but you definitely can't defeat the 3 of us. You can't defeat my Protoss army of billions. All Protoss, listen to my orders. At this moment, Shen Huang raised the Sword of Misfortune in his hand, paused for a moment, pointed at Su Zimo in front of him, and roared, Kill! Kill! With this order, a loud roar erupted in the divine city. Billions of Protoss poured out like a golden stormy wave, fiercely crashing towards Su Zimo. Heaven and earth shook. This kind of power, not to mention one person, even an entire world would find it difficult to resist. Roar! At the same time, the Dragon Knight rode the divine dragon, holding one of the 4 divine artifacts, the Spear of Judgment, and rushed towards Su Zimo. In the blink of an eye, the Dragon Knight had already arrived in front of Su Zimo. The distance of more than 10,000 feet was covered in an instant. On the other side, Shen Huang, with the divine crown on his head, and the Sword of Misfortune, and the Shield of Calamity in his hands, had also appeared on the other side of Su Zimo. On the city wall, the High Priest's figure slowly rose into the air, waving one of the 4 divine artifacts, the Staff of Dawn, slightly looking up at the sky with a pious expression and chanting. Endless light shone from the Staff of Dawn. The 3 peak Protoss powerhouses attacked at the same time. Behind the 3 Protoss powerhouses, there was an army of billions of Protoss pressuring the border, with a mighty momentum. In fact, what Shen Huang said just now was right. If the power that Su Zimo possessed was only limited to that punch he delivered to the Divine Emperor back in Tianhuang mainland, it would have been enough. It was indeed very difficult for him to resist the current situation. However, the punch Su Zimo used to shatter Shen Huang's body was not the peak of the power he could use in the lower realm. You really don't know anything about my power. Su Zimo sighed softly. Bookhouse Reading Website. Chapter 2067. God's Bind. Accompanied by the recitation of the Protoss's High Priest, he waved the Staff of Dawn and scattered a series of godly lights. Suddenly, ropes that shone with golden light appeared on Su Zimo's body out of thin air, giving him no time to dodge at all. Although the High Priest was the furthest away from Su Zimo and was casting his technique on the city wall, his attack was the first to arrive. The shimmering golden rope tightened continuously, as though it wanted to rip Su Zimo's body apart. What was even more frightening was that Su Zimo's bloodline could not be activated under the shroud of the golden light of the rope, as though it was suppressed by a mysterious power. The God's Bind was not only able to restrain a cultivator's body, but also their bloodline and essence spirit. Su Zimo's expression was calm, and his eyes were emotionless. All of a sudden, a purple halo appeared behind Su Zimo. A deafening sound echoed from his body as well, as though he had broken free from some sort of shackle, and opened a secret realm gate as his aura surged. A fate wheel appeared. Pang! 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 The golden ropes that bound him were severed by the purple halo, and dissipated into nothingness. Right then, the High Priest's second secret skill descended. God's judgment. Suddenly, a gigantic golden sword appeared above Su Zimo's head and slashed down viciously at his neck. Buzz! A second purple halo appeared behind Su Zimo. Boom! The golden longsword landed directly on the purple halo, and a loud bang was heard. The golden sword dissipated. Su Zimo did not budge at all. God's punishment. Before the high priest's third secret skill could be formed, another purple halo appeared behind Su Zimo. The third fate wheel descended. Although they were 10,000 feet apart, the high priest shuddered and swayed. A trace of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth, and he looked even older, as though he was on the verge of death. He released 3 Protoss secret skills consecutively, and gave it his all without holding back. Even so, his 3 secret techniques were still defeated one by one. The last secret skill was destroyed by Wu Dao's fate wheel before it could be formed. The essence, spirit, and body of the high priest suffered an intense backlash. Regardless of the outcome of this battle, the Protoss would not be able to hold on any longer. What the hell is that? In the high priest's eyes, under the illumination of the 3 purple halos, Su Zimo seemed to have become the only true god in the world, the sovereign of the world, looking down on all living beings. Even the noble Protoss had to bow their heads. Even though Wu Dao himself had reached the 6th level of the Fate Wheel realm, he was afraid of the backlash from the laws of heaven and earth. Therefore, he could not release his full strength. 3 Fate Wheels was the pinnacle of power in the mortal world. When Wu Dao's original body fought against the Blood Demon Dao Lord, he had released 3 Fate Wheels. In Tianhuang mainland, even though Su Zimo destroyed Shenhuang with a single punch, he still held back and did not use the power of his Fate Wheels at all. Fate Wheels were the wheels of life. The 3 wheels of life might seem ordinary, but they were condensed and intertwined with all the Daos and skills that Wu Dao's original body had fused and refined since he started cultivating. The power of Wu Dao's original body would only reach the pinnacle when he released his Fate Wheels. With the arrival of the 3 Fate Wheels, Su Zimo's power surged. The 3 secret skills of the High Priest arrived, and the 3 Fate Wheels of Wu Dao's original body condensed to break them. Although it took time to describe, it all happened in an instant. Bloodline Phenomenon. Divine Blood Ring. Heavenly God's Descent. Judgment Strike. When the Divine Emperor and the Dragon Knight arrived before Su Zimo, they released their bloodline phenomenons and innate divine powers without holding back at all, bursting forth with the most ferocious killing power. Fight! Su Zimo hollered with 3 Fate Wheels. Against the ferocious attacks of Shenhuang and the Dragon Knight, he did not dodge or evade at all. Instead, he went against the momentum and intertwined Daos beneath his feet, forming the image of a coiled turtle and snake. The coiled turtle and snake roared into the skies. Boom! The ferocious attacks of Shenhuang and the Dragon Knight were blocked by the image of the turtle and snake. Wielding the sword of misfortune, Shenhuang channeled his blood qi and slashed forward. The Dragon Knight gripped the spear of judgment with both hands and thrust forward with a sharp expression. The evil dragon beneath the Dragon Knight roared as well, spitting pitch-black flames from its mouth as it bit towards Su Zimo's legs. Su Zimo glared at Shenhuang with a burning gaze. His blood qi surged and he raised his hand to punch. Wu Dao's original body did not have any weapons. His fists and his body were his weapons. That punch was indestructible, and there was nothing it could not break. With that punch, the air around Shenhuang seemed to have burned up. Even the divine blood in his body boiled uncontrollably and began to evaporate. At that moment, Shenhuang felt as though his body was about to explode. Shenhuang had never experienced such a terrifying punch. It was even more terrifying and despairing than the punch he experienced back in Tianhuang mainland. Initially, he thought that he would be able to deal with Su Zimo with the help of a divine weapon. But now, in the face of such a terrifying punch, the Divine Emperor actually had the misconception that the sword of misfortune in his hand was like a piece of paper. Shenhuang wanted to roar and counterattack with all his might. However, he realized that he could only open his mouth and could not even make a sound. Su Zimo's punch was as violent as fire and seemed as though it could incinerate everything. The moment Shenhuang opened his mouth, his throat seemed as though it could spew fire. Shenhuang bit the tip of his tongue gently and spat out a stream of golden essence blood onto the sword of misfortune. Shing! A series of pitch-black fiend chi surged from the sword. Shen Huang raised the sword of misfortune and slashed down fiercely at Su Zimo's fist. Boom! The fist and sword collided. Shen Huang shuddered. He felt as though his sword did not land on flesh. Instead, it felt as though it had landed on metal. Crack! 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 Immediately after, a series of horrifying cracking sounds could be heard from the sword of misfortune. Shen Huang's pupils constricted as he looked at the cracks that were gradually spreading on the sword. One of the 4 divine judgment weapons of God Mainland was shattered by a single punch from Tianhuang Mainland's ancient Wu Huang. All of a sudden, Shen Huang's expression changed starkly. The moment the sword of misfortune shattered, he felt a violent scorching power surge over and almost engulf him. Shen Huang hurriedly threw away the cracked sword of misfortune and retreated. Even so, he was half a step too late. Bang! Shen Huang's body could not withstand the impact of that power and exploded. Immediately after, the gem on the crown of gods flowed with a milky white brilliance that was divine and flawless. It enveloped his broken body and reconstructed it rapidly. Shen Huang's face was pale. If not for the fact that the sword of misfortune bore most of Wu Huang's power, even the crown of gods might not have been able to protect him from that punch. Chapter 2068. On the other side, the Dragon Knight rode on the evil dragon and held the judgment spear in his hand. He had already closed in. The judgment spear flickered with a bright and dazzling light. Countless mysterious runes were engraved on the spear, condensing the power of the Protoss Gula, judgment power. Most of the time, this kind of judgment force could even directly kill the opponent. Even if one could block the judgment spear's sharpness, they could easily be killed by this judgment power. At the same time, the evil dragon flapped its huge fleshy wings and spat out pitch-black flames from its mouth. It bit down on Su Zimo's legs. Su Zimo's chi and blood surged. Suddenly, a huge phantom appeared behind him. It looked like a dragon and a phoenix, with a dragon head and a phoenix tail. A pair of huge wings grew behind its back. They were red like flames, and its body seemed to be flowing with boiling lava. This phantom quickly condensed and descended between heaven and earth. The mini Protoss that were charging over suddenly felt an aura that made their hearts palpitate. An unsuppressible fear that came from the depths of their bloodlines welled up in their hearts. Hiss! The mini Protoss looked up and couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Taboo! Draco Phoenix. The phantom that condensed behind Su Zimo was actually a Draco Phoenix. Even the evil dragon under the Dragon Knight was affected. It stared at the Draco Phoenix phantom in the air with bewilderment in its eyes. What are you afraid of? This is fake. The Dragon Knight slapped the evil dragon under him and roared. This is only his bloodline phenomenon. Suddenly, the Draco Phoenix phantom in the air suddenly opened its eyes. In an instant, this Draco Phoenix seemed to have come alive. Its eyes moved and landed on the evil dragon below. It opened its mouth and red dragon saliva flowed out. Roar! An earth-shattering roar erupted from the depths of the Draco Phoenix's throat. The evil dragon's roar made its body tremble in fear. Go! The Dragon Knight roared again and stabbed the judgment spear into the evil dragon's body. The evil dragon felt pain and could only attack Su Zimo. The Dragon Phoenix was furious. It swooped down and grabbed the back of the evil dragon with its huge and ferocious dragon claws. The dragon lowered its head and opened its mouth, biting the evil dragon's neck. Crack! The dragon's head was bitten off by the Dragon Phoenix. The evil dragon's body was also torn into 2 halves by the dragon and phoenix's claws, and its smelly internal organs fell from midair. Burned by the Dragon Phoenix flame, it quickly turned into ashes. Actually, the Dragon Knight was right. This Dragon Phoenix was indeed a bloodline phenomenon created by Su Zimo. After Wu Dao's original body merged with the Dragon Phoenix true body's physical body, he also merged its bloodline into his body and inherited this bloodline phenomenon. However, even if it was a phenomenon, it was still a taboo that couldn't be provoked. He killed an evil dragon at the Emperor level on the spot. While the Dragon Phoenix was killing the evil dragon, the Dragon Knight had already arrived in midair. Descending from the sky, he wielded his spear with both hands and stabbed it towards Su Zimo's head. Without even looking, Su Zimo raised his palm and grabbed the judgment spear with his bare hands. Piak! The judgment spear was grabbed by Su Zimo single-handedly and did not budge at all. The power of judgment that surrounded the judgment spear was shattered by the 3 fate wheels behind Su Zimo instantly and did not affect him at all. Ching! Suddenly, Su Zimo exerted strength and grabbed the judgment spear, tugging it. Ah! The dragon knight cried out in pain and could not hold on to it at all. The judgment spear was snatched away by Su Zimo single-handedly, and blood flowed from his palms. At that moment, on the other side, Shen Huang had just reconstructed his body with the help of the god's crown and stood up. Holding the judgment spear, Su Zimo glanced at him indifferently and threw it back. Swoosh! The golden light broke through the air and disappeared in a flash. Su Zimo did not know the secret techniques of the Protoss, nor did he know how to control the judgment spear. However, he just condensed all the power of his physical body and bloodline into the judgment spear and released it again. It was enough to destroy everything. Before Shen Huang could stand firm, he saw a flash of golden light in his eyes. Shen Huang was shocked and had no time to dodge at all. He could only block in front of him with the shield of disaster in his hand. This was a veritable conflict of contradictions. The spear and the shield were both divine artifacts of the godly mainland. Boom! The judgment spear and the shield of disaster collided. Heaven and earth seemed to stop for a moment. At the place where the 2 divine artifacts collided, a huge blast of air burst out and spread wildly in all directions, stirring up dust and dirt. Cracks appeared on the surface of the 2 divine artifacts. There was no winner in a conflict of contradictions. In the blink of an eye, 3 of the 4 divine artifacts had been destroyed by Su Zimo. Although the judgment spear was broken, Shen Huang still could not resist the violent power contained in the judgment spear, and his body collapsed again. Whoosh! This time, Shen Huang did not linger on the battlefield. He did not wait for the divine crown to condense a body. He hid his primordial spirit in it and fled into the distance. Among the 3 Protoss, only the dragon knight was left. He was still standing in the air, unable to move forward or backward. He had not fought for too long. At the moment when he was distracted, Su Zimo had already arrived in front of him. Without any unnecessary movements, 3 fate wheels were condensed behind him. He clenched his fist and punched. The dragon knight wanted to retreat, but it was too late. He roared and activated his primordial spirit. The golden armor on his body suddenly burst into flames. This was a golden flame. The dragon knight was enveloped in flames, as if he was born from fire. I will show you the holy fire of the Protoss. The dragon knight roared. This kind of flame was released by burning his divine blood and divine soul. This was the most ancient secret technique of the Protoss. By sacrificing his divine blood and divine soul, he would die no matter if he won or lost. Playing with fire in front of me? Su Zimo had a mocking expression. He suddenly opened his mouth and took a deep breath. Whoosh! The golden flames that were originally burning on the dragon knight's body had now turned into a golden flame that was completely swallowed into Su Zimo's stomach. How dare you? The dragon knight opened his eyes wide. He could not imagine that someone would dare to swallow the holy fire of the Protoss. This was simply courting death. But he only said 3 words and could not go on. There was nothing unusual about Su Zimo. He swallowed the golden flame with a calm expression. There was no pain. Instead, he smacked his lips as if he was savoring the taste of the flame. The 3 fate wheels behind Su Zimo seemed to have become even more mysterious. Bang! With a backhand punch, Su Zimo slapped the dragon knight's face, smashing his head into pieces. The dragon knight's primordial spirit did not escape either. It was shattered by Su Zimo's punch, and the headless body fell. The 3 top Protoss experts were swept away and suppressed by Su Zimo within a dozen breaths of time. Among them, the dragon knight and the dragon under him died on the battlefield. The remaining high priest was exhausted. He stood on the city wall and looked at this scene, on the verge of collapse. The divine emperor suffered a crushing defeat and fled. Chapter 2069. On the city wall, flames also rose from the high priest's body. "Grandpa High Priest!" the little girl behind him exclaimed and wanted to rush over. Although the little girl was also a Protoss, she didn't have too much sin in her body. Although Wu Dao's main body released karmic fire, not all Protoss would be burned by it. Protoss who didn't have enough sin wouldn't attract karmic fire. The high priest shook his head slightly and released a divine sense to repel the little girl. He smiled bitterly. "I didn't expect that the Protoss's calamity would still come." Even without the karmic fire, he couldn't hold on. The high priest looked back at the ruined ancient city that was engulfed in a sea of fire. Then, he looked at his clansmen who were running around in panic. His eyes dimmed. "Nian Qing go," the high priest murmured. "I hope you can save the rest of our clansmen." As soon as he finished speaking, the high priest's old body was engulfed by the karmic fire and turned into dust. A red lotus was branded on the city wall. "Senior Wu Huang, Senior Wu Huang." This little girl called Nian Qing carelessly wiped away her tears. She carefully took out a piece of golden paper from her bosom and shouted towards the sky. Wu Dao's main body's figure was faintly discernible in the sky. He looked down at the world, and his gaze fell on the little girl on the city wall. He was slightly stunned. The girl's blonde hair was slightly curled. She looked like Nian Qi when he first met her. Wu Dao's main body closed his eyes for a while before opening them. With a thought, the furnace between heaven and earth dissipated. The destructive flames also dissipated. In just a few dozen breaths, hundreds of millions of Protoss had fallen. Many of them were Protoss emperors, ancestral gods, and almighties. Wu Dao's main body didn't plan to kill them all. Among the Protoss, not all of them were warlike. They all wanted to conquer the world and be above all other living beings. Of course, Wu Dao's main body was decisive in killing. In this battle, he had almost killed all of the Protoss emperors and ancestor gods. After today, the Protoss would probably need an unimaginable amount of time to recover to his peak. It was even possible that he would never be able to recover from this setback. Of course, the most important purpose of Wu Dao's main body's massacre was to make the Protoss feel fear. He had to let this fear take root. He had to let this fear penetrate deep into the bloodline and soul of the Daoshan clan, so that the godly mainland would never dare to step into infinite wasteland. At this moment, the heaven and earth furnace had disappeared, and the flames had dissipated. The Protoss who had survived the calamity stood in their original positions, looking lost and dazed. Wu Dao's original body stood in the air, and slowly walked towards the central divine city. He walked over their heads, but none of the Protoss dared to raise their heads. If any living being dared to walk over the Protoss before today, it would be an unacceptable provocation. They would definitely suffer the wrath of the Protoss. But at this moment, none of the Protoss dared to look at the figure in the air. They were afraid that their gazes would incur the wrath of that person, which would lead to a fatal disaster, or even the extinction of their race. All the Protoss realized that this person's methods could completely destroy the entire Protoss and turn the godly mainland into a lifeless fiery hell. At this moment, in the face of this figure, every single god race being lowered their prideful heads. Not long after, Wu Dao's main body arrived at the city wall. He looked at the little girl beside him. His gaze fell on the golden page, and he was about to speak. In the distant void outside the city wall, a crack suddenly appeared, and a figure wearing a divine crown appeared. It was Shen Huang, who just now had escaped. Wu Huang. Shen Huang looked at the dilapidated and devastated city with a ferocious expression and a face full of resentment. He gritted his teeth and said, "You will ascend one day. I will wait patiently. The day you ascend will be the day your race on Tianhuang will be exterminated." Wu Dao's main body's gaze fell on Shen Huang. Hearing this, the little girl's expression changed greatly. Wu Huang had already stopped. The little girl didn't want to bring the extinction of the Protoss race because of Shen Huang. "Senior Wu Huang," the little girl hurriedly shouted. But she discovered that Wu Dao's main body had already disappeared from her sight. In the blink of an eye, Wu Dao's main body had already arrived in front of Shen Huang. He reached out his hand and grabbed at Shen Huang. Shen Huang's expression changed starkly. Without hesitation, he retreated and entered the void tear. Wu Dao's main body sneered and chased him without hesitation. After charging into the void tear, Wu Dao's main body felt his vision light up, as though he had entered another world. This world was filled with light, which was very different from the godly continent in Tianhuang continent. In God Mainland and Tianhuang Mainland, Wu Dao's main body could always sense the threat of the laws of heaven and earth. As long as he released power that exceeded the upper limit of the lower realm, he would definitely attract a backlash from the laws of the lower realm. However, in this world, this sense of threat had actually disappeared without a trace. In fact, there was even some heaven and earth essence qi in this space, although it was extremely thin. Upper realm. Wu Dao's main body's heart skipped a beat. However, he rejected that thought before long. This could not be the upper realm. However, it should be a small world that was created by a top expert of the upper realm. It was independent of the billions of small worlds, and was not bound by the laws of the lower realm. In reality, there was such a place in Tianhuang Mainland as well. Back then, when Daiyu imparted cultivation techniques to Su Zimo in Pingyang town, she created a Dao field in his room. That Dao field was extremely similar to the small world before him. However, there was no heaven and earth essence qi in that Dao field. If Wu Dao's main body cultivated in the Dao field in Pingyang town, he would not suffer a backlash from the laws of heaven and earth. Therefore, his cultivation could continue to improve. Ha 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 ha. Shen Huang reared his head in laughter and glared at Wu Dao's main body, saying hatefully, "Wu Huang, you've been tricked. The reason why I said those words earlier on was to lure you here." "Oh," Wu Dao's main body asked with an indifferent expression, "what is this place?" "This is the most secretive and ancient mystic realm, in the mainland of gods, the land of the gods." Shen Huang could not help but laugh. He looked at Wu Dao's main body as though he was looking at a dead man and said slowly, "In this world, there's a Protoss, a true god. The cultivation realm of the Protoss in the land of the gods has far surpassed that of an emperor, and is at the level of a mystic god." Wu Dao's main body had a calm expression, and there was no fluctuation in his eyes. Ha 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 ha. When Shen Huang saw that, he burst into laughter. "Wu Huang, I think you're scared silly. Or do you not know what a mystic god is at all? Do you want me to explain it to you?" Chapter 2070. Seeing this scene, the billions of Protoss were terrified. However, with so many Protoss gathered in one place and charging toward Su Zimo, the situation was set. Even if someone wanted to retreat, it would be useless. The golden tide surged over, shaking the earth and mountains, as if it could drown everything. "You want to challenge me?" Wu Dao's eyes were like torches. His blood surged, and it was as if there was a tsunami in his body. He instantly pushed his qi and blood to the limit, and he disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. Where is he? Teleportation. The charging momentum of the billions of God race warriors came to a halt. Doubts flashed through everyone's mind. Suddenly, the Protoss's expressions changed, and they looked up instinctively. The wind and clouds suddenly changed, and the sky suddenly changed color, as if it was covered by the setting sun. It was incomparably red and soaked in the sunset glow. Not long after, the color of the other half of the sky gradually changed back to sky blue. What's going on? What kind of divine ability is this? The Protoss looked around with bewildered expressions. Some of the gods even began to activate their primordial spirits and unleash a series of mystiques towards the strange firmament. However, when these divine abilities entered the void, they didn't cause any ripples and disappeared without a trace. "It's so hot. What's going on?" Some Protoss began to notice the abnormality. The temperature between heaven and earth was rapidly rising. Suddenly, above the sky, there was a sea of fire. The Protoss looked up, and they couldn't help but be shocked. In the sky, huge fireballs began to descend, smashing toward the crowd, covering the sky and the earth. These fireballs completely engulfed the boundless central divine city. The billions of Protoss were too densely packed. A huge fireball smashed down, and it could easily swallow a few Protoss. This was a devastating disaster for the Protoss below. Boom! The fireball descended and smashed into the city wall, creating a huge hole in the flickering golden city wall. Sparks flew everywhere. Some of the Protoss couldn't dodge in time, and were caught in the flames. In the blink of an eye, their entire body was set ablaze. They struggled for a short while before they were reduced to ashes. The Protoss army was in chaos. The ancient divine city was engulfed in a sea of fire. Grandpa High Priest, why don't I beg Wu Huang for mercy? A little girl looked at the scene in front of her and said with tears in her eyes. The High Priest was like a lamp that had run out of oil. His face was ashen, but there was no sign of retreat in his murky eyes. The High Priest slammed the Staff of Dawn on the ground and shouted, "Don't panic, we Protoss have the protection of the gods. We have many people, and as long as we work together, we will be able to break Wu Huang's vision. Knights of Light, with me as the center, gather." The emperors of the Protoss were also trying their best to control the Protoss army. Under the command of the High Priest and some of the Protoss emperors, the Protoss gradually suppressed the fear in their hearts, calmed down, and gathered as much as possible. Suddenly, the color of the sky changed. In addition to the huge fireball, there was also a light blue rain of fire. This kind of fire didn't seem to have any temperature, nor did it have an earth-shattering aura. However, if it landed on a god race cultivator, the god race cultivator would die instantly and turn into ashes with his soul dissipated. The billions of Protoss army had just calmed down when they were baptized by this sky-blue rain of fire. They collapsed again and fell into chaos. The High Priest took a deep breath and used the last of his strength to shout, "Everyone, listen to my command. Release your abilities and bloodline visions with me. Attack the sky above us." The High Priest's voice was hoarse. This roar was like the last cry of his life. This roar shook the minds of the Protoss again. "Fight! Even if the flames burn us, we must pierce a hole in the sky." The Protoss no longer ran away. They condensed their bloodline visions, activated their innate abilities, held their magic treasures, and accumulated their strength, preparing to work together to pierce through the sky. Suddenly, a ball of fire burned in the body of one of the Protoss emperors. Without any warning, it quickly engulfed his entire body. Many Protoss could clearly see that this crimson flame didn't come from the sky at all. It was ignited in this Protoss's body. Ah! This Protoss let out a shrill scream. His body kept twisting. Divine blood surged, but it couldn't extinguish the flame in his body. He continuously released his abilities, and the flame in his body burned even more fiercely. In just a few breaths, this Protoss emperor was burned to ashes. Where he stood, a demonic red lotus appeared. "What is this?" Seeing this scene, the Protoss was so scared that their faces turned pale. "There's also something in your body." A Protoss pointed at another Protoss opposite him with a terrified expression. The same flame suddenly ignited in the body of the other Protoss. In 3 breaths, this Protoss was burned, leaving behind a red lotus mark. At the same time, many Protoss bodies ignited in flames. This was karmic fire. If one's body was tainted with sin, it would attract karmic fire to burn one's body. The billions of Protoss army, under the command of the High Priest, finally managed to overcome the fear in their hearts. But before they could work together, they were defeated by the karmic fire of the Red Lotus. All the Protoss, including Zhu Shenhuang, fell into endless fear and no longer had the strength to fight. No one thought about how to resist anymore. Many Protoss fled in all directions, trying to escape from this sea of purgatory fire. Many Protoss discovered that there was no flame at all in the place where the beings of Tianhuang stood. Many Protoss swarmed in that direction. Boom! 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 But these Protoss were stopped before they could reach the beings of Tianhuang. A red curved iron wall vaguely appeared between the beings of Tianhuang and the Protoss, connecting the heavens and the earth. Some celestials crashed into the crimson iron wall and were burnt to a crisp. Their flesh and bones were scorched into a fiery red color, and they perished. At the same time, the Protoss fleeing in all directions encountered the same situation. Crashing into these fiery red iron walls was also a dead end. All the Protoss seemed to be trapped in a sealed container, unable to advance or retreat. There was nowhere to run. The first flame was the Dragon Phoenix flame that Wu Dao's original body had inherited from the Dragon Phoenix true form. The The second flame was the tribulation fire that he had comprehended later. Each tribulation fire contained the power of the heavenly tribulation. The Protoss of the lower realm couldn't withstand it at all. The third flame was the karmic fire of the Red Lotus. Wu Dao's original body activated his bloodline avatar and absorbed the Protoss of this world and the central divine city. Using heaven and earth as a furnace, the three flames burned everything. The Protoss couldn't see clearly because they were in the middle of it. In the eyes of the beings of Tianhuang standing outside, a huge furnace vaguely appeared between heaven and earth. It was crimson red and burning with flames standing tall and firm. Chapter 2071. Compared to the smug Shenhuang, Wu Dao's real body remained calm. Just now, when the crack appeared in the void, he had already felt a powerful force coming from the depths of the void. This force had already surpassed the limits of the lower realm, reaching the level of arcane Ian. Wu Dao's real body's cultivation was already comparable to that of an earth immortal. Naturally, he was fearless as he followed Wu Huang into the land of the gods. He also wanted to see what kind of gods lived in this so-called land of the gods. At this moment, rays of golden light suddenly descended from the heavens and the earth. They entered the surrounding void and condensed into flashing golden runes. The heavens and earth trembled slightly, then quickly returned to normal. Haha, Shenhuang laughed. Wu Huang, the land of the gods has been completely sealed. Now even if you want to escape, it's impossible. Just now, I'm only saying these things to you to buy time, so that the gods can cast their spells and cut off your escape route. You didn't expect that you would fall for it again, did you? Shenhuang was so pleased with himself that he thought Wu Dao's real body was completely led by the nose by him. But now Wu Dao's real body looked at him, as if he was looking at an idiot. Suddenly, behind Shenhuang, in the void, more than a dozen shining figures gradually appeared. Their auras were powerful, far more powerful than Shenhuang's. Wu Dao's real body could clearly feel the yuan qi of heaven and earth in these Protoss's bodies. With a sweep of his consciousness, he was able to clearly determine the cultivation realms of the dozen or so god clan members. Among the dozen Protoss, the lowest cultivation was only at Arcane Ian Stage 1, and the highest cultivation was not even at Arcane Ian Stage 7. Moreover, this Protoss at Arcane Ian Stage 7 was already white-haired and nearing the end of his lifespan. Wu Dao's real body was not surprised by this scene. Although this small world was independent of the billions of small worlds, and was not affected by the laws of heaven and earth of the lower realm, it still had the essence of heaven and earth. However, the primordial qi in this world was too thin. There seemed to be some peerless powerhouse from the upper realm, in this small world, who had used some kind of secret technique to steal a strand of vitality from the upper realm. This wisp of primordial qi had traveled a long distance, and when it entered the world again, it was almost negligible. The vital energy in this land of the gods was so thin that it was far inferior to the Dragon Abyss planet, where Qinglian's true body had ascended. The living beings who cultivated on the Dragon Abyss star were lacking in cultivation resources. They could only rely on the heaven and earth energy on the star. Even if they exhausted their lifespan, they would never be able to cultivate to the 9th level of the mystic origin realm. No matter how thin the vital energy of heaven and earth on the Long Yuan planet was, it was still the upper realm. The Dragon Abyss planet was already like this, let alone the land of the gods in the lower realm. Without cultivation resources like the small soul condensing pill, the Protoss in this land of the gods would never be able to cultivate to the 9th level of the mystic origin realm, even if they exhausted their lifespan. For this old Protoss to be able to cultivate to the 7th level of the mystic origin realm, in his twilight years, was already unprecedented. You must be Wu Huang from Tianhuang region. The old Protoss's gaze fell on Wu Dao's real body as he asked. Senior, Shenhuang hurriedly said, that's him. My Protoss's high priest and dragon knight have both fallen in his hands. He has also killed hundreds of millions of our clansmen. Even the central divine city on the continent of the gods was burned down by his flames. It was destroyed and turned into ruins. The dozen or so mystic origin realm Protoss stared coldly at Wu Dao's real body. They did not hide the murderous intent in their hearts. These mystic gods had already released their divine sense and scanned Wu Dao's real body several times. But they did not find anything unusual. To be precise, they could not detect Wu Dao's real body at all. Wu Dao's real body cultivated Wu Dao, created the Wu Dao branch, and formed the fate wheel. Even heavenly gods and true gods would not be able to detect the cultivation level of Wu Dao's real body, let alone these mystic gods. The mystic gods could not detect the cultivation level of Wu Dao's real body, but they were still fearless. This was because the gods believed that no one in the lower worlds could surpass them. The old Protoss shook his head slightly inside. Human from Tianhuang region, if you had stopped before going too far, you might not have attracted such a fatal disaster. But your murderous intent is too strong. You wanted to kill everyone and chase me to this world. Today, you will die here. The mystic gods in the land of the gods usually did not show up on the continent of the gods. Because, on the continent of the gods, they would be restrained by the laws of heaven and earth, and would not dare to use the power of the mystic Yin realm. In this way, these mystic gods were not much different from the Shenhuang outside. Only in this land of the gods, these mystic gods could use their full strength without restraint, without holding back. This was also the reason why Shenhuang spent so much effort to lure Wu Dao's real body into the land of the gods. At this time, Shenhuang gradually calmed down and faintly sensed that something was wrong. Wu Dao's real body was too calm. From the moment he stepped into the land of the gods, Wu Dao's real body had not said a word, and there were no fluctuations in his expression. Even when more than 10 mystic gods appeared, Shenhuang did not see the slightest bit of surprise in Wu Dao's real body's eyes. Even if Wu Dao's real body did not know the realm of the mystic gods, how could he not feel the terrifying power emitted from the bodies of these mystic gods? Facing this kind of power that far surpassed an emperor, how could Wu Huang maintain such calmness and calmness? The more Shenhuang thought about it, the more uneasy he became. Wu Huang, you're already at death's door. Why pretend to be calm? Shenhuang could not help but yell softly. Wu Dao's real body looked at Shenhuang and the rest, and asked indifferently, the so-called land of the gods, there are only these few mystic gods. How ignorant. A rank 1 mystic god could not hold it in and sneered. Just me alone is enough to kill him. Before his voice fell, this rank 1 mystic god's figure flashed, the blood in his body surged, and in the blink of an eye, he already arrived in front of Wu Dao's real body. This mystic god did not put on any airs. Clenching his fists tightly, blood burst forth, and fiercely smashed down on the top of Wu Dao's real body's head. Wu Dao's real body did not move, and did not even blink his eyelids. When this mystic god's fist almost touched his hair, Wu Dao's real body suddenly made a move, and grabbed this mystic god's fist. Not only this rank 1 mystic god who made a move, even the expressions of the gods present changed slightly, and they secretly frowned. One had to know that even the physical body of a rank 1 mystic god had experienced the baptism of heaven and earth's essence energy, and was no small matter. Moreover, the physical body of a Protoss bloodline was strong to begin with. This rank 1 mystic god's fist was enough to destroy any magic treasure in the lower realm, any emperor. But his fist was grabbed by Wu Dao's real body, and did not move at all. Although the cultivation realm of Wu Dao's real body was different from the upper realm, his physical body was tempered by raging flames all year round, and also refined a large amount of heaven and earth's essence energy. The physical body of Wu Dao's real body was cultivated by refining elemental holy stone, and it was unknown how many levels higher than the physical body of these mystic gods. If it's only the few of you, you can all be buried here today. Wu Dao's real body said indifferently. Chapter 2072. Hearing this, the first reaction of the 12 abstruse gods was that it was ridiculous and ridiculous. An emperor from the lower realm was actually threatening them. Threatening to bury them here? The rank 1 abstruse god whose fist was being held by Wu Dao could not laugh at all. His face was pale as he endured the pain from his palm. His body trembled, and he almost fainted. His fist was caught in the martial Dao true body's palm. He could only feel that the palm was constantly tightening, as if his fist was about to explode from the pressure. What was even more terrifying was that when his fist was being held by Wu Dao's true body, the qi and blood in his body calmed down and stopped circulating. He did not even have the strength to resist. Puff! A bloody light appeared. The fist of the rank 1 abstruse god was crushed by Wu Dao's true body. Ah! The abstruse god let out a shrill scream. Before he could retreat, he felt a figure flash in front of him. Then, he felt pain between his eyebrows and lost consciousness. The scream came to an abrupt end. Wu Dao's true body only flicked his finger and shot out a ray of sword qi into the abstruse immortal's forehead, killing him. He did not stop walking. He passed by the corpse of the abstruse god and walked toward the remaining 12 abstruse gods. Everyone be careful. This person is a bit strange. The old Protoss looked serious and said in a low voice, "Everyone work together. Don't hold back and kill this person." Before he finished speaking, golden qi and blood surged in the bodies of the 12 abstruse gods and formed their own bloodline anomalies. When the Protoss grew to a certain age and awakened their bloodline, they would form their bloodline anomalies. God's descent. Divine blood ring. Then, the 12 abstruse gods released their innate abilities one after another. Kill. As the old abstruse god roared, the 12 abstruse gods attacked at the same time. They formed their innate abilities and threw them at Su Zimo. At the same time, the 12 abstruse gods also split into different directions and charged toward Wu Dao's true body. Wu Dao's true body's expression did not change. Suddenly, a series of sounds came from his body. Bang! 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 It was as if some kind of shackle had suddenly broken free. Purple halos appeared behind Wu Dao's true body one after another. In the blink of an eye, 6 purple halos appeared. 6th level of the Fate Wheel realm. 6 Fate Wheels, condensed with Wu Dao's will intertwined with a myriad of techniques, circulated with hundreds of scriptures, emitted a divine light, and a terrifying aura that swept across the heaven and earth. The 12 Xian gods' bloodline anomalies, skills, and techniques were all turned into dust as soon as they touched the 6 Fate Wheels. Under the cover of the 6 Fate Wheels, Wu Dao's real body was wearing a purple robe. His black hair fluttered in the air even though there was no wind. His eyes were as deep as the ocean, making him look like an emperor who was looking down at the world. In the land of the gods, the Xian gods could attack without restraint. As for Wu Dao himself, he had nothing to worry about. The difference in strength between the two sides was too great. Some of the Xian gods didn't manage to stop in time. They crashed into the Fate Wheels and were crushed into dust by the purple Fate Wheels. Some of the Xian gods even wanted to crush the Fate Wheels with their physical strength. However, as soon as their fists touched the purple Fate Wheels, they froze on the spot and turned into dust in the blink of an eye. Their bodies and souls were destroyed. Wu Dao himself didn't even make a move. He just manifested the 6 Fate Wheels and walked forward, and Xian gods fell one after another. In the blink of an eye, half of the 12 Xian gods had died. At this moment, the old Xian god realized that the human in front of them was not someone they could fight against. "Give me the crown of God," the old Xian god shouted. He moved his consciousness and took the crown of God from Shen Huang's head and summoned it not far away from him. He and the other 5 Xian gods looked at each other and activated their consciousness at the same time. They formed a secret technique and chanted spells. "In the name of the Protoss, I purify everything in the world." The circle of 8 gems on the crown of God suddenly emitted rays of milky white light. Under the control of the 6 Xian gods, they formed a light beam and crashed toward Wu Dao's real body. Boom! The milky white light landed on the Fate Wheels of 6 paths and made them tremble slightly. However, the milky white light beam collapsed in an instant. The 6 Xian gods were also shocked. They were hit by the power backfire. Their faces turned pale, and they each took a few steps back. Wu Dao's real body came forward and took the crown of God. "This is impossible." The old Xian god widened his eyes and said unwillingly, "You can't have cultivated to this level. Your cultivation should have surpassed the Xian god level." Wu Dao's real body looked indifferent. Between his eyebrows, a purple light flashed and his consciousness flashed. In the sea of consciousness of the 6 Xian gods, a purple flame suddenly burned on their primordial spirits and engulfed their entire primordial spirits. In the blink of an eye, the primordial spirits of the 6 Xian gods were burned to ashes by the purple flame. Although the 6 Xian gods' bodies were intact, their primordial spirits were destroyed. This was the primordial spirit secret skill that Wu Dao's real body released, martial spirit fire. With his primordial spirit realm, he could refine the primordial spirits of the 6 Xian gods without using any primordial spirit power. Shen Huang was completely dumbfounded. In a short while the 13 Xian gods in the land of gods had all died here. Wu Dao's real body looked at the crown of God in his hand. He injected his consciousness into it and activated it gently. The crown of God did not move at all. It did not release the milky white power. The milky white power was quite strange. It could even break the hellfire and shake his fate wheels. Therefore, Wu Dao's real body wanted to explore it. Shen Huang's face turned pale, and he swallowed his saliva in fear. While Wu Dao's real body was studying the crown of God, he flashed and ran out of the land of gods. However, when he came to the space node of the land of gods and hit it hard, he could not rush out. Instead, he was bounced back. You've forgotten that there are restrictions in the land of gods. You won't be able to escape. Right then, the voice of Wu Dao's real body sounded in Shen Huang's ears. Shen Huang felt his scalp go numb, and a chill ran down his spine. Before he could react, a broad palm had already landed on the top of his head, instantly imprisoning his primordial spirit. Without hesitation, Wu Dao's real body released a soul-searching technique. On the surface of the ball of light in his palm, pitch-black chains extended and coiled around Shen Huang's primordial spirit. Shen Huang's primordial spirit struggled and roared continuously. However, it could not resist the painful process. Through Shen Huang's primordial spirit, Wu Dao's real body flashed through his mind. He was searching for information about the crown of God. A moment later, Shen Huang's primordial spirit was almost exhausted. Wu Dao's real body also obtained the answer he wanted and clenched his fist gently. The ball of light shattered and Shen Huang's primordial spirit was destroyed. Chapter 2073. The Power of Faith, Su Zimo murmured. Just as he had expected, this crown of gods was not something from the lower realm. The milky white light that flowed out of the 8 jewels on the crown was a unique and mysterious power of the Protoss, the power of faith. The Protoss kept conquering other small worlds because the more worlds they ruled, and the more creatures they made submit to the Protoss, the more power of faith they could obtain. It could be said that this crown of gods gathered the power of faith of all the creatures under the Protoss rule. When Su Zimo faced this crown of gods, he was not facing a magic treasure, not a person, but an endless number of creatures that worshipped the Protoss. This was an unimaginably vast power. It was because of this unique and majestic power of faith that Shen Huang was able to escape death twice, extinguish the hellfire, and even shake the fate wheel of the 6 paths. Almost all the Protoss techniques required the Protoss physique and bloodline to be cultivated. Although Su Zimo had obtained some Protoss techniques from Shen Huang's memories, he could not cultivate them. Even if he merged them into Wu Dao's furnace, it would be useless. Su Zimo closed his eyes and stood still. He spread out his divine sense and explored the land of gods. After a while, Su Zimo suddenly opened his eyes. There was a flash of surprise in his eyes. In the land of the gods, he had actually discovered a complete elemental spirit stone mine. This place had existed for countless years. Perhaps a powerful being from the upper realm had fallen here countless years ago. His body was buried here. As time passed, it gradually decayed and petrified. Vitality filled the air and gradually formed a mineral deposit. Although there were always profound gods cultivating here, if they wanted to use elemental holy stones to cultivate, they would have to reach the Earth origin stage without the help of a taboo secret manual. And because the vitality in the land of gods was thin, the profound gods here had no chance to cultivate to the Earth origin stage. In this way, the mineral deposit was completely preserved. This mine was completely useless to the other living beings of the lower realms. But to Wu Dao's main body, it was no different from sending charcoal in snowy weather. He had already used up all the elemental holy stones left behind by the upper realm cultivators. Now he could only cultivate by refining the path fruit of the underworld king. However, the Dao fruit was ultimately the condensation of a true immortal's lifetime of cultivation. No matter how ferocious Wu Dao's furnace was, it would still be extremely difficult to refine a true immortal Dao fruit. Therefore, the cultivation speed of Wu Dao's original body also gradually slowed down. Now, obtaining this complete essence spirit mine was too important to him. Su Zimo did not hesitate. With a wave of his hand, he dug out the entire elemental spirit stone mine and placed it all into Wu Dao's furnace. In his body, the martial soul fire, Dragon Phoenix Fire, Calamity Fire, and Red Lotus Fire were constantly tempering his body. After throwing the entire elemental spirit stone mine in, he did not need to deliberately cultivate. Wu Dao's furnace could also gradually refine the entire mine. After lingering in the land of the gods for a while, Su Zimo did not discover anything else. Only then did he leave this realm. Immediately after, he released a secret technique and completely sealed off the land of the gods. Unless there was a descendant of the Protoss who could surpass him in strength, there would be a chance to reopen this realm. Inside and outside the central divine city, the fire was still burning. On the battlefield, flames were everywhere. The central divine city had been reduced to ruins. Only a few broken walls were left. It no longer had the majesty of the past. The surviving Protoss did not leave. They were all looking in the direction of the land of the gods, silently praying and waiting in their hearts. When they saw Su Zimo walk out, the hope in the hearts of the Protoss was completely extinguished. Wu Huang's appearance meant that Shen Huang had fallen. When Su Zimo reappeared on the land of the gods, heaven and earth fell into a long silence. In the hearts of the Protoss, there was only fear and despair left. At this moment, they experienced the feeling of facing Shen Huang and the unstoppable army of Protoss. It was like reincarnation. Su Zimo stood on top of the clouds and looked down at the Protoss below him. His expression was calm as he slowly said, "Your god is dead." The Protoss's faces darkened. At this moment, the Protoss's spirit, the Protoss's will, and the Protoss's pride all collapsed. The gods were dead. The faith of the Protoss also died. Defeated. All the Protoss on the land of the gods, the Protoss who had once been invincible, were defeated by a single person. They were completely defeated. They were trampled from the clouds into the dust. From now on, even if the Protoss could rise again, they would never dare to set foot on the land of the gods. This figure had become the nightmare of all the Protoss. It became an indelible mark of fear in the hearts of all the Protoss. Seeing this scene, the girl called Nianqing on the ruined city wall also looked sad. Her heart was filled with grief, and tears fell down her cheeks. This disaster for the Protoss could have been avoided. As early as 2,000 years ago, her master, Nianqi Shen Huang, had seen this day. "Who are you?" At this moment, a voice sounded in her ears. Nianqing looked up. She didn't know when, but the Wangu Wu Huang of the land of the gods had come to her side and was quietly looking at her. "Senior Wu Huang, my name is Nianqing." Nianqing hurriedly pulled up her sleeves and wiped her tears. "My master is Nianqi Shen Huang." Nianqing, Su Zimo murmured. "This name was given by your master, right?" "Yes." Nianqing nodded and handed over the golden paper in her hands. Master said, "If one day you kill your way to the land of the gods, I should give this golden paper to you." Su Zimo took it and opened the folded golden paper. Gongzi. Seeing this name, Su Zimo was a little stunned. The girl in front of him seemed to have turned into Nianqi, standing beside him and calling softly. Nianqi hopes that Gongzi will never see these messages. But if you unfortunately see it, it means that the Protoss didn't listen to my instructions. I hope that Gongzi will remember our old friendship and leave a little bloodline for the Protoss. Nianqi will be eternally grateful. After Su Zimo finished reading, he rubbed his palm. The golden paper turned into dust and disappeared. "Senior Wu Huang?" Nianqing was a little nervous. Her voice trembled as she asked. Su Zimo said, "If you had taken it out earlier, your clansmen might not have fallen so many." Nianqing lowered her head. She also wanted to take it out earlier, but neither the high priest nor Shen Huang had thought of begging for mercy. They only wanted to fight with Wu Huang, and even kill him. She had already taken out this golden paper, but Shen Huang had deliberately provoked her and lured Wu Huang into the land of the gods. Who would have thought that not only would Shen Huang fall, but all the profound gods in the land of the gods would also be buried with him. Also, Chapter 2074. Everyone from Tianhuang mainland was emotional when they saw that. A single person suppressing an entire world. Who would have believed it if they had not witnessed it with their own eyes? The storyteller was even more excited. The storytellers of every generation bore the responsibility of writing about the civilization of Tianhuang mainland, spreading merit, passing down the spirit of the human race, and inheriting the great Tao. The reason why Fairy Ling Long established Enigma Palace was to pass down the Tao. In Enigma Palace, every emperor would have a storyteller to write a biography for them. Back then, before Su Zimo was conferred the title of emperor, the mystic emperor created the Wu Dao and imparted martial arts to all living beings and wrote a legend for him. The mystic emperor had once said that he did not write the name of the biography and left it blank. He did not know how far Su Zimo would go in the future. Therefore, he could only wait for the storyteller of the next generation to complete the biography. Later on, when the War of the 10,000 Races broke out on Tianhuang mainland, and the blood demon catastrophe happened, the mystic emperor had already become the guardian of the human emperor's palace, and Lin Xuanji officially became the storyteller of that generation. In this biography, Lin Xuanji recorded these two epic battles. Before Lin Xuanji ascended, he chose the storyteller. Initially, he intended to write the name of Wu Huang's biography. However, before he was about to write, he changed his mind and left it blank. Right now, the biography had already reached the hands of the storyteller of this generation. Normally speaking, after the two major upheavals of the War of the 10,000 Races and the blood demon catastrophe, Tianhuang mainland would enter a long period of recuperation. The storyteller of this generation initially thought that Tianhuang mainland after Wu Huang's generation was ordinary and uninteresting. However, he had not expected to witness Wu Huang conquering the god mainland with his own eyes and suppressing an entire world single-handedly. It was an incomparably resplendent and unprecedented battle, be it in terms of meaning, impact, or the powerful methods displayed by all parties. This battle was not inferior to the War of the 10,000 Races and the blood demon catastrophe. The storyteller was extremely excited to be able to witness it personally and even record it down. Before long, everyone on Tianhuang mainland watched as Su Zimo walked over with a little Protoss girl. "Zimo, are you alright?" Ji Yaoshua asked softly. Su Zimo smiled and shook his head. He walked over to Ji Yaoshua and put the crown of God on Ji Yaoshua. "What are you doing?" Ji Yaoshua lowered her head slightly and blushed. Su Zimo did not seem to notice it. Instead, he turned to the little Protoss girl and said, "Release the Protoss secret technique and activate this crown of God. Let it flow with the power of faith." Nianqing was the Protoss, and only she could use the divine crown. Ji Yaoshua also realized that Su Zimo might have given her the divine crown for some purpose. Nianqing nodded. She activated her qi and blood, released her divine sense, and condensed a secret technique. Nianqing's cultivation was not high enough. After a long time, the 8 gems on the crown of God flickered slightly and slowly flowed down a milky white brilliance. Like a waterfall, it sprinkled on Ji Yaoshua's body. Su Zimo's divine sense locked onto Ji Yaoshua and felt the changes in her body. After a while, Nianqing's primordial spirit was weak and could no longer activate the crown of God. Her face was pale, and she was panting slightly. The power of faith flowing down from the crown of God was also cut off. "It still doesn't work," Su Zimo whispered in his heart, and a touch of gloominess flashed across his eyes. Under his gaze, Ji Yaoshua's cultivation realm still showed no signs of a breakthrough. and her lifespan did not increase at all. Over the years, in order to help Ji Yaoshua increase her lifespan, he did not know how many heavenly treasures he had found, and how many methods he had thought of. But in the end, it was all in vain. This time, when he noticed the magic of the power of faith, his first reaction was to let Ji Yaoshua try to break through the realm and increase her lifespan. Unfortunately, even though the battle strength of Wu Dao's original body was invincible in the lower domain, even though his cultivation realm had already reached the level of an earth immortal, even though he was able to establish Wu Dao, impart martial arts to all living beings, and smelt thousands of techniques, but in the face of this matter, he was still helpless. This also meant that, if there was no other way, Ji Yaoshua's lifespan would only be left with 1,000 years. 1,000 years of time for mortals was a long time, but for cultivators, it was just a fleeting moment. Today, although he had suppressed the godly continent, solved the biggest hidden danger of Heaven Wasteland, and even obtained a complete elemental spirit stone mine, but in Su Zimo's heart, there was still not the slightest joy. Everyone on Heaven Wasteland could feel the change in Wu Huang's mood, but no one knew the reason. Ji Yaoshua smiled, took off the crown of God, and handed it back to Su Zimo, and asked softly, "Are you worried about me?" Su Zimo silently took the crown of God, looked down, and did not say a word. Ji Yaoshua smiled and said, "Zimo, actually, I have no regrets in my heart now that I can see you again. Right now, I am very happy." Ji Yaoshua did not want Su Zimo's mood to be too heavy, so she smiled and comforted him. "What are your plans next?" Su Zimo took a deep breath, finally looked up at Ji Yaoshua and asked. "I don't know either." Ji Yaoshua shook her head slightly. Su Zimo suddenly said, "Let's go out for a walk." Ah! Ji Yaoshua was stunned for a moment and asked subconsciously, "Where to?" "To other small worlds." Su Zimo chuckled. "There are billions of minor kiliocosms like Tianhuang mainland in the lower world. Every single minor kiliocosm is different and has different civilizations, legacies, and living beings. There are all sorts of strange and bizarre things." Hearing those words, Ji Yaoshua's eyes gradually lit up. Not to mention her. Even the others on Heaven Wasteland yearned to go out and see it for themselves. It was a world that was different from Tianhuang mainland and the mainland of gods. What kind of civilizations, buildings, and customs were there in those small worlds? Everything was unknown, and everything was new. Unfortunately, even the emperors of Heaven Wasteland did not have the ability to travel through billions of small worlds at will. Furthermore, they had to bring another person with them. Of course, that's good. But don't you want to ascend? Won't it affect your cultivation? Ji Yaoshua was a little happy and excited, but also a little worried. "There's no hurry to ascend," Su Zimo smiled. "Cultivation is boring, and it's rare for me to have some free time. I can travel around. I wonder if you're willing, Empress of Great Zhou." Ji Yaoshua pretended to be dignified and pondered for a moment before replying. "Permitted." Although Ji Yaoshua's expression was stiff, the smile in her beautiful eyes seemed like it was about to spill out. At that moment, the two of them seemed to have abandoned their identities. Su Zimo was not Wu Huang. Ji Yaoshua was not the Empress either. It was as though time had reversed, and the two of them had returned to the night when they first met. They looked at each other and smiled intimately. There was no lust in their eyes. Their gazes were clear, pure, and beautiful. In Su Zimo's heart, Ji Yaoshua was different from others at the end of the day. Back then, when Su Hong was in his twilight years, Su Zimo was trapped at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley and did not have the chance to accompany him. But now, Su Zimo did not want to have any more regrets. Even if the two of them were not fated to become Dao companions in this lifetime, it would not affect Ji Yaoshua's position in his heart. He would choose to accompany Ji Yaoshua to finish the last part of her journey. Chapter 2075. Divine Firmament Immortal Realm, Dajin Immortal Kingdom, Sun Moon County, Astral Sect. It had been more than 1,500 years since Su Zimo went into seclusion. All these years he had never shown his face. Even the area around his cave abode was covered with weeds. They grew so well that they covered the entire cave abode. If not for the faint life aura in the cave abode, many people would have thought that the drunkard had died in there. When he joined the astral sect, the changes on the stargazing platform were gradually forgotten. Except for Shangguan Qian of the Shangguan family. Her cave abode was near Su Zimo's cave abode. Every once in a while, she would come here to take a look. This person is really dumb. He's probably drunk in his cave abode, and doesn't even know what day it is. Not far away, a young man was lying on a piece of bluestone with his legs crossed as he spoke. Another person said, "If you ask me, it's useless for us to waste time here. Who knows when this drunkard will come out?" Xie Yong, a member of the Xie family. The other person was called Lin Gong, a member of the Lin family. Both of them were first-stage Earth immortals. Back then, Xie Tianfeng and Lin Ming wanted to cause trouble for Su Zimo, but they were stopped by the array outside the cave abode. So they just sent 2 people to keep an eye on Su Zimo. In the blink of an eye, more than 1,000 years had passed. "This drunkard is really strange," Xie Yong said. Xie Yong said, "Normally, cultivators who join the astral sect have a glimmer of hope, hoping to find the legendary cultivation method inheritance in the astral sect. But this drunkard has never shown himself. Yeah, he hasn't participated in any of the activities or fights held by the sect," Lin Gong said. "This person hasn't even done any sect missions. Where would he get elemental spirit stones and essence condensing pills to cultivate? I think that even if this drunkard can complete the sect's missions, he'll still exchange them for wine." Haha, the 2 of them laughed. At that moment, a creaking sound came from the cave abode not far away. Xie Yong and Lin Gong were startled, and quickly looked in the direction of the voice. The door of the cave that was overgrown with weeds was slowly opening. Dust and smoke were billowing out. Immediately after, a gust of wind surged out from the cave, blowing away the dust at the door. A tall figure swayed as he walked out. It was the drunkard called Mo Ling. This person actually came out of seclusion. Xie Yong let out a long breath. Seeing that this person had come out of seclusion, he could finally return to report the completion of his mission. He no longer needed to keep an eye on him. "Brother Xie, something doesn't seem right." Just as Xie Yong was about to leave, Lin Gong suddenly grabbed him and said, "Don't worry." "What is it?" Xie Yong asked impatiently, as he was in a hurry to report back. Lin Gong asked, "If I recall correctly, that drunkard was only a first-tier Earth immortal when he joined the astral sect." "Yes." Xie Yong nodded. Then he realized what Lin Gong was implying. He was shocked and hurriedly asked, "What? Has he broken through to the 2nd level of the Earth origin stage?" To be able to break through one level in 1,500 years, one must be a genius among geniuses. Even some disciples who were specially trained by sects or descendants of aristocratic families would find it difficult to do so with sufficient resources. "No, he hasn't broken through to the 2nd level of the Earth origin stage." Lin Gong seemed to be scared out of his wits. He shook his head and said, "Take a look for yourself. My eyes must be playing tricks on me." Xie Yong turned around and used his divine sense to check. Hiss! Xie Yong's expression changed drastically. 4th level of the Earth origin stage. In 1,500 years, he had advanced 3 levels. Xie Yong's jaw dropped, his face full of disbelief. "How is this possible? How is this possible?" Xie Yong couldn't accept it and whispered repeatedly. When he wanted to check the drunkard's cultivation again, he raised his head and found that the drunkard had already left and disappeared from their sight. 4th level of the Earth origin stage? Lin Gong asked. Xie Yong nodded with difficulty. They looked at each other and hurriedly got up, ready to report this to Xie Tianfeng and Lin Ming. Su Zimo naturally noticed the presence of Xie Yong and Lin Ming, but he didn't pay attention to them. He had joined the astral sect this time to use this sect as a cover to cultivate in seclusion. He didn't want to provoke anyone, nor did he want to attract any trouble. Su Zimo had gained a lot from his seclusion this time. The Prajna Sutra, the Void Thunder Manual, and the Divine Elephant Breath Devouring Technique. He had comprehended all 3 cultivation methods. He had also cultivated the secret method of the Black Tortoise Saint Soul to minor accomplishment. and his cultivation had reached the 4th level of the Earth origin stage. His primordial spirit stage had reached the 6th level of the Earth origin stage. Not to mention Xie Yong and Lin Gong. Even in the entire heaven realm, there were very few people who could surpass such a cultivation speed since ancient times. The main reason was because of Qinglian's true body and the taboo Prajna Sutra. The most important reason for him to come out of seclusion this time was that he had exhausted all of his cultivation resources. If he continued to cultivate in seclusion, although he could still use the yuan qi of heaven and earth to cultivate, the speed would be extremely slow. Su Zimo wanted to raise his cultivation as soon as possible. His old friends from the lower realm, Monkey and the others, Momo, Nian Qi, Kitsune, Carefree, Lin Xuanji, Ming Zhen and the others had already ascended. In the lower realm, all of them were paragons and monster incarnates who reigned supreme. However, in the upper realm, everyone had to go through what he had gone through. In fact, they might even face situations that were even more dangerous and harsh. He had to raise his cultivation as soon as possible, so that he could have the strength to protect himself and his old friends from Tianhuang mainland. Su Zimo arrived before a stone stele on the main peak of Alcate Peak. Lines of words were written on the stone stele. They were all sect missions issued by the astral sect. The missions were divided into 3 levels: mystic, earth and heaven, corresponding to cultivators of different cultivation realms. The missions of each level were divided into different categories according to their difficulty and were marked by stars. 9 stars were the most difficult and had a slim chance of survival. 1 star was the easiest. After completing the mission, one would be able to obtain sect contribution points that could be exchanged for cultivation resources, elixirs, cultivation techniques, and secret skills in the astral sect. Most of the sects in the upper realm were the same. For example, in the earth level mission, the mission at the bottom was to search for a spirit herb with a difficulty of 1 star. The contribution points exchanged were only enough to exchange for a single major essence formation elixir. At the mystic essence realm, one had to consume a minor essence formation elixir. At the earth essence realm, one could consume a major essence formation elixir apart from spirit essence stones. Su Zimo's gaze shifted to another stone stele. This stone stele was a special mission issued by the sect, and cultivators of any cultivation realm could accept it. The rewards were not contribution points either, but spirit essence stones, major essence formation elixirs, or other specific prizes. The first thing on the list was to find a person. There was a portrait pasted on it. It was Su Zimo with black hair and delicate features. Chapter 2076. What? In a cave abode, Xie Tianfeng slammed the table and stood up. He frowned and asked, "You're saying that this drunkard rose 3 levels in 1,500 years?" "It's true," Xie Yong quickly said. "Not only me, Lin Gong saw it too. There's no mistaking it." "How is that possible?" Xie Tianfeng frowned, puzzled. Even with his talent, it was impossible for him to break through a single level in 1,500 years, let alone 3 levels in a row. This was beyond his knowledge. An Earth immortal had a lifespan of 200,000 years. Anyone who could break through 1 level in 10,000 years would be considered a genius, let alone 1,500 years. Could it be that this person used some method to hide his cultivation? Xie Tianfeng thought to himself. This person was originally a stage 4 Earth immortal, but he hid his true cultivation. But on second thought, he denied this conjecture. Back then, everyone saw the drunkard's cultivation. He was a stage 7 Earth immortal. This drunkard could not have hidden from his senses. But if that was not the case, how could this person break through 3 levels in just 1,500 years? Not to mention the length of time. Just the amount of cultivation resources consumed to break through 3 levels was already a huge number. This person was just a stage 1 Earth immortal. How could he have so many cultivation resources? Xie Tianfeng did not take Su Zimo seriously at first. Su Zimo was just a stage 1 Earth immortal. Xie Tianfeng's cultivation was much higher than his. They were not on the same level. The reason why he sent someone to keep an eye on this person was because Shengguan Qian, seemed to be interested in this person. But now, Xie Tianfeng faintly realized that he might have made a mistake. Xie ran. Xie Tianfeng called out softly. Here. A tall, thin man stepped forward. He was a stage 5 Earth Immortal. Xie Tianfeng said. Follow this person and observe his every move. If you find anything unusual, report it immediately. Okay. Xie Ran nodded and left. At the same time, a Lin clansman also left the cave abode. At that moment, Su Zimo had already left Alcade Main Peak and was heading out of the sect. Although there were many missions on the Alcade Peak, the rewards were average. Even if it was a 9-star difficulty mission, the reward of contribution points was very difficult to exchange for many elemental spirit stones and great condensing pills. It was a 9-star mission, not to mention that it was extremely dangerous. Who knew how long it would take to complete it? After all, the astral sect was only a black sect, so their rewards were limited. Su Zimo thought of a place and decided to go there to take a look. In the canyon of the Dragon Abyss planet. In that canyon there was a secret space hidden. Because Su Zimo had the Dragon Phoenix primordial spirit in his primordial spirit, he could enter and exit as he pleased. At that time, Su Zimo had seen a dilapidated palace building in that space. However, when he wanted to go in and explore, he was blocked by a powerful force and was unable to go in. Now that his cultivation base had reached the 4th level of the Earth origin stage, he could go back and explore that place to see if he could find anything useful. That was most likely a space created by a true immortal horned dragon. Who knew what treasures were inside? Not long after Su Zimo left the astral sect, he frowned slightly. He sensed that someone was following him. Su Zimo sneered in his heart. After joining the astral sect, he did not come into contact with anyone, nor did he offend anyone. He did not expect that he would still attract attention. The tree wanted to be quiet, but the wind did not stop. Su Zimo activated his consciousness, directly exploding with the earth crossing golden light and heaven's feet. He also released the ethereal wings on his back, increasing his speed sharply. Xie Ran released all his chi and blood, and pushed his primordial spirit to the limit, but still could not catch up. In the end, he lost track of Su Zimo. That Lin clansman was the same. Soon, he was left behind by Su Zimo. This drunkard's movement technique is impressive. Xie Ran snorted. He actually knows so many movement techniques. Both of us are a level higher than him, but we can't do anything to him. That Lin clansman shrugged and said, Let's go. We can only go back home. Both of them had no choice but to return to the astral sect. On the other side, Su Zimo released 3 divine powers and sped along, taking a huge detour before heading towards the nearest Blue Feather City. Before long, Su Zimo felt a sense of wariness in his heart once more. Someone was following him. That person's cultivation realm was at least 2 levels higher than his. Otherwise, there was no way that person would be following him so closely. It was easy for Su Zimo to shake that person off. All he had to do was release his innate divine powers and conjure the wings of the Great Rock. However, the wings of the Great Rock were way too obvious. Back when he was hunted down by Duke Yuanzhua in Azure Cloud County, he had used them before. If he were to release that divine power, there was a high chance that he would attract even more trouble. Right as Su Zimo was pondering, the sound of a sharp weapon tearing through the air sounded from behind him. It was extremely fast, and arrived at the back of his head in the blink of an eye. This time round, there was no mercy at all. It was a pure killing move. Su Zimo's expression turned cold. He merely tilted his head slightly and avoided the fatal blow. At the same time, he paused in his tracks and turned around. In the distance, a black-robed man with a dark expression was speeding towards him. He was a level 6 Earth Immortal, and his face was flushed red and drenched in sweat. Although he was not shaken off by Su Zimo along the way, he was exhausted as well. Why are you following me? Su Zimo asked coldly. The black-robed man closed in and took a deep breath to calm himself down. With a murderous expression he said, Go and ask the King of Hell. With that said, the black-robed man attacked right away. He channeled his essence spirit, and the power of his divine power spread. A gigantic fireball was conjured in his palm, and he pointed at Su Zimo. The fireball was like a blazing sun as it whizzed over. The moment the black-robed man attacked, he released a powerful divine power. Su Zimo's expression was calm. Although the other party was a level 6 Earth Immortal, he had many methods that could suppress this level 6 Earth Immortal at this moment. He pondered for a moment and remained motionless, secretly conjuring his essence spirit and channeling a secret skill. Whoosh! Endless yuan qi of the universe gathered around him. At the tip of his finger, it quickly condensed into a drop of water that glowed with black light. This drop of water was quite mysterious. Although it was only one drop, it seemed to contain an endless amount of unimaginable power. This drop of water with a black glow was the secret skill of the Black Tortoise Sacred Soul. One heavenly primordial water. The one heavenly primordial water was the essence of pure Yin. Just one drop of it was enough to turn a river into an ocean. With a gentle flick of his finger, the water droplet flew out and collided with the incoming gigantic fireball. The difference between the two was huge. It was like hitting a rock with an egg. However, when the drop of water with a black glow landed on the gigantic fireball, an ear-piercing sound was heard. In an instant, the fireball was extinguished and the power of the divine power dissipated. Bookhouse Reading Website. Chapter 2077. The black-robed man's expression changed starkly. He had not expected that an unassuming water droplet released by a grade 4 Earth Immortal, who was 2 cultivation realms lower than him, would be able to break through his great mystic power. Not only that, the water droplet that shone with a black light did not dry up after passing through the gigantic fireball. The remaining droplet shot towards the black-robed man. What kind of demonic technique is this? The black-robed man cursed and extended his sleeves. He waved casually, wanting to brush away the water droplet, so that he could conjure another immortal art to fight against Su Zimo. However, the moment his sleeves collided with the water droplet, the black-robed man shuddered. He did not manage to shake the water droplet at all. At that moment, it was as though he was not facing a water droplet, but a vast ocean that was surging towards him with raging waves. Bang! The water droplet exploded. The black-robed man was sent flying, and the sound of bones cracking could be heard from his body, as he was sent tumbling dozens of feet away. If there was a weak water in the world that could drown all living beings, it was the lightest water in the world. If that was the case, the one heavenly true water would be the heaviest water in the world. A single droplet of water could reach the size of an ocean. Although Su Zimo had successfully cultivated it, he could only conjure a single droplet with his essence spirit. If he could cultivate the one heavenly true water to thousands of droplets, it would be a power that could destroy the world and destroy everything. The black-robed man channeled his essence chi to repair the cracks in his bones as he tried to stand up. All of a sudden, a figure flashed before him, and Su Zimo had already arrived before him. Stepping on his chest with a single foot, it was as though a towering mountain was pressing down on him. The black-robed man could not move at all. "You can't kill me," the black-robed man said hurriedly. "I'm from the Zhua clan." The Zhua clan was one of the 5 major families of Sun Moon County. Su Zimo asked expressionlessly, "Who sent you here?" "It was my idea," the black-robed man replied. "You're not telling the truth." Su Zimo shook his head gently and exerted force with his foot, causing the black-robed man's chest to creak, as though he could pierce through it at any moment. "Mo Ling, how dare you?" The black-robed man was enraged. He gritted his teeth and said, "You dare to take my life, my left." Crack. Su Zimo exerted force with his foot, and instantly stomped on the black-robed man's heart, causing his chest to cave in deeply. "Ah!" The black-robed man let out a miserable shriek. Su Zimo did not give him any chance. He extended his palm and slapped the top of his head, imprisoning his essence spirit before releasing the soul-searching technique. Since this person was not telling the truth, Su Zimo would see for himself. It didn't take long for his primordial spirit to wither. After a while, Su Zimo rubbed his palm and destroyed the black-robed man's primordial spirit. Zhuajuxian. Su Zimo looked back in the direction of the astral sect and sneered. He had some impression of this Zhuajuxian. Among the descendants of the 5 great clans, his cultivation was the highest. Like Shangguan Qian, He was an Earth Immortal at level 8. He was relatively steady and had an extraordinary bearing. Unlike Xie Tianfeng and Lin Ming, he did not show any hostility towards Su Zimo. Su Zimo did not expect that this person would want his life the moment he made a move. Moreover, this person was extremely cautious. He was afraid that there would be an accident, so he sent a level 6 Earth Immortal to ensure that nothing would go wrong. However, he met Su Zimo. Su Zimo took the black-robed man's storage bag and threw out a ball of fire, burning the man's body to ashes and destroying all traces. Only then did he turn and leave. His current goal was to go to the Abyss and Dragon Abyss planet to take a look. He could not be bothered with Zhuxian for now. In a cave abode in the astral sect, Zhuxian sat cross-legged on a stone bed, seemingly resting with his eyes closed. Behind him stood an elderly man with a level 7 Earth Immortal cultivation. "Young master, why did you suddenly pay attention to Mo Ling, and even sent Zuofu to kill him?" The elderly man asked curiously. Zhuxian gently rubbed his forehead before opening his eyes. "The way Shengguanqian looks at this person is a little strange. I've asked her a few times in a roundabout way, before I found out the reason for the anomaly at the Stellaris sect." "Why? Is it related to this person?" The elderly man frowned in disbelief. This person was only a level 1 Earth Immortal back then. How could he cause such a huge commotion in the astral observatory? Zhuxian said. "When I first heard Shengguanqian's speculation, I did not think much of it. I just thought that she was overthinking it. However, this person's cultivation has advanced by leaps and bounds after he came out of seclusion this time. He has reached level 4 Earth Immortal. This is too interesting." The elderly man was also thinking about it. Zhuxian said in a low voice, "I'm sure that this person must have a unique treasure on him. It was this unique treasure that caused the strange phenomenon in the astral observatory. It was also this unique treasure that allowed this person to advance 3 levels in a row in 1,500 years. That's why you asked Zuofu to kill this person and bring back the treasure on him." The elderly man was enlightened. Zhuxian's eyes flashed with passion. He said, "If I can get such a unique treasure, I can break through to level 9 Earth Immortal before the Divine Firmament Immortal Gathering and compete for the Earth Roll. As long as I can enter the Earth Roll, even if I'm at the bottom, I will be famous in Great Gene. This is only my starting point. When the time comes, I will expand the family beyond Sun Moon County and become an Immortal Path family in the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom." Young master's ambition is really the family's fortune. The elderly man hurriedly praised him. Then the elderly man seemed to have thought of something and asked, "Young master, is your marriage with Shengguanqian still not decided?" At the mention of this, Zhuxian's face suddenly became gloomy. He said, "Humph, I've spent a lot of effort on her all these years. However, this woman has always been indifferent to me. Humph, if I can leave my name on the Earth Roll, I will be famous in the world. At that time, even if she comes and begs me, I might not even like her." At this moment, Zhuxian's heart skipped a beat as if he had sensed something. He patted his interspatial pouch and took out a broken soul slip with an ugly expression. "This is..." the elderly man asked. "Zuofu is dead." Zhuxian's eyes were cold as he gritted his teeth. The elderly man frowned and said, "How is that possible? Zuofu's battle strength is not weak, and his cultivation is 2 levels higher than Mo Ling's. How could he die?" "There are 2 possibilities," Zhuxian said in a deep voice. "First, Mo Ling relied on that unique treasure to kill Zuofu. The second possibility is that this person has other helpers. I'm guessing that the first possibility is more likely." The elderly man thought for a while and nodded. He said, "When that person joined the astral sect, he was alone. All these years, he has not come into contact with anyone. He should have no helpers." "Haha." Zhuxian suddenly smiled and said, "A treasure that can allow a person to kill an opponent 2 levels higher than him. I'm looking forward to it even more." Chapter 2078. Su Zimo arrived at Blue Feather City and headed straight for the teleportation formation. His wanted poster could still be seen on the city walls of the ancient city. However, more than 1,000 years had passed, and the investigation had gradually relaxed. Su Zimo observed in the city for half a day. Before entering the teleportation formation, there would not be guards coming up to reveal the cultivator's primordial spirit. This way, his primordial spirit would not have any flaws when holding the Trigem Rui scepter. Su Zimo swaggered into the teleportation formation and teleported to the edge of the Sun Moon County's territory. It was the closest city to Dragon Abyss planet Peerless City. The longer the teleportation distance, the more elemental spirit stones he would have to pay. There were some elemental spirit stones in the storage bag of the black-robed man, and the amount was enough for him to teleport. After arriving at Peerless City, Su Zimo did not leave the city. Instead, he continued to teleport to Dragon Abyss planet. Dragon Abyss City did not change much after more than 2,000 years. Su Zimo descended into the ancient city again, and he could not help but feel emotional. Back then, when he left Dragon Abyss City, he was only a stage 7 mystic immortal. When he returned this time, his cultivation had already reached stage 4 earthly immortal. The moment Su Zimo walked out of the teleportation formation, he quickly felt that something was different. This difference came from the gazes of many cultivators in the city. Every cultivator looked at him with a hint of reverence in their eyes. Even the guards guarding the teleportation formation bowed slightly when they saw Su Zimo, revealing a respectful expression. The guards guarding the teleportation formation were only stage 6 mystic immortals. Who's the city lord of this city? Su Zimo glanced at the guard beside him and asked casually. Exalted immortal, the current city lord of Dragon Abyss City is Chu Ming. The guard said. Su Zimo raised his brows slightly and asked again. I remember that the previous city lord seemed to have the surname Su. Exalted immortal, you're talking about Su Shi, right? The guard said. After Su Shi became an earthly immortal, he left Dragon Abyss City with his family. He should have joined an immortal sect. Su Zimo nodded slightly. Back then, when he bid farewell to Su Shi, the latter had indeed mentioned such a plan. Exalted immortal, you must be here for the abyss, right? The guard asked. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat, and he asked in return. What's wrong? Did other cultivators go to that abyss? That person said. Exalted immortal, you might not know this, but ever since that incident on Dragon Abyss planet, some exalted immortals from Godly Cloud's continent would come here every once in a while to explore that place. It is said that there is some kind of treasure hidden there, but after all these years, I have not heard of anyone obtaining it. Su Zimo nodded and said, Did anyone come to the Dragon Abyss planet recently? There are 2 sects, the Profound Ice Valley and the Gui Yuan sect. I heard that they are both profound rank sects, the person said. What are the cultivators of these sects? Su Zimo asked again. He should be an earth immortal, but I don't know exactly what level he is at. The guard smiled and said, There is a huge difference between me and these exalted immortals. I can't tell at all. Su Zimo nodded and took out a jade bottle from his storage bag. He tossed it to the guard and said, Keep it and pretend that you have never seen me. The guard opened the jade bottle and saw that there were 10,000 small origin condensing pills inside. He could not help but be overjoyed. Don't worry, exalted immortal. The man happily put the jade bottle into his pouch. There were still many small origin condensing pills in Su Zimo's storage bag. However, after cultivating to the earth immortal realm, even if he consumed the small origin condensing pills, the effect would be negligible to him. He casually gave away 10,000 pills without any heartache. Su Zimo leaped up and left Dragon Abyss City, heading straight for the abyss. A day later, Su Zimo's speed gradually slowed down. At the end of his vision, he could see a huge pitch-black crack that almost split Dragon Abyss planet into 2. Before he got close, Su Zimo heard the sounds of intense fighting. Among the sounds, there was a dragon's roar mixed in. Su Zimo frowned slightly and walked toward the abyss. Not long after, he arrived at the top of the abyss and slowly descended. At the bottom of the abyss, above the pile of corpses, he could see 13 figures intertwining with each other. They took out various magical treasures and unleashed various divine skills and immortal arts, trapping a girl in white. These 13 figures were all Earth Immortals. The two with the highest cultivation were rank 5 Earth Immortals. The badges hanging on their waists were different, indicating that they were from two different sections. As for the remaining 11 Earth Immortals, the lowest cultivation was rank 2 Earth Immortals. There were 6 rank 3 Earth Immortals, and 3 rank 4 Earth Immortals. The girl who was trapped in the middle was only at the first level of the Earth Origin stage. Suzimo glanced around. There were 7 or 8 cultivators lying on the ground. It was obvious that they had just died not long ago. The blood flowing out from their wounds was still warm. The cultivators who had fallen had died in a horrible way. They were either torn in half by a powerful force, their heads were bitten off, or their stomachs were cut open. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, it would be hard to imagine that these cultivators had died in the hands of this girl. The girl in white's cultivation was much weaker than the rest of the cultivators. There was only one reason why she could kill 7 or 8 cultivators when surrounded by so many Earth Immortals. She was not a human. Suzimo sensed a familiar bloodline in the girl in white's body. The bloodline of dragons. Roar! Just then, another wound appeared on the girl in white's body. She opened her mouth in anger and let out a dragon's roar. However, the girl in white was covered in wounds. The dragon's roar was obviously weak. Suzimo nodded to himself. The girl in white and the Earth Immortals besieging him were at most 4 levels apart. It was not easy for her to hold on until now with such a huge gap. Suzimo was currently a rank 4 Earth Immortal. With his combat strength, it was hard to tell who would win if he fought against a rank 8 Earth Immortal. Of course, he had many tricks up his sleeve. In a battle of life and death, victory and defeat could be decided in an instant. Normally, dragons could only unleash their full combat strength when they transformed into their true forms. However, this girl in white had not transformed into her dragon form at all. Every time she wanted to activate her bloodline, a beam of light would shine on her. Just as she transformed, the beam of light hit her, and she quickly reverted to her human form. It's the demon revealing mirror. Suzimo looked at the 2 ancient mirrors in the air. These 2 ancient mirrors were the Dharma treasures of 2 rank 5 Earth Immortals. Among the 13 Earth Immortals besieging him, the 2 rank 5 Earth Immortals had blocked most of the girl's power. If it were not for the 2 rank 5 Earth Immortals, the remaining 11 Earth Immortals would not have been able to suppress the girl in white even if their cultivation was higher. Haha, one of the Earth Immortals laughed. Book Guest House Reading Website. Chapter 2079. The bloodline of the dragons is indeed extraordinary. The other rank 5 Earth Immortals smiled and said, "If not for the 2 of us, our junior brothers and sisters would not have been able to subdue this young dragon." Suzimo watched coldly from the sidelines and saw everything clearly. If he was not mistaken, these 2 groups of cultivators should be the 2 sects mentioned by the guards of Dragon Lake City, the Dark Ice Valley, and the Guiyuan sect. The reason why the girl in white could hold on for so long was because she was not weak. On the other hand, the 2 rank 5 Earth Immortals wanted to capture her alive, so they did not kill her. Of course, as time went by, the girl in white would get more and more wounds on her body. She would not be able to hold on for long. "You despicable humans!" The girl in white ground her teeth, her eyes filled with hatred and anger. She said with hatred, "How dare you try to enslave me? Aren't you afraid of provoking the wrath of the dragons and starting a war between the dragon realm and the heaven realm?" The 2 stage 5 mystic immortals were slightly startled, but very quickly, the 2 of them looked at each other and laughed loudly. Their eyes were filled with ridicule and ridicule. What did this young dragon say? The rank 5 Earth Immortal pretended not to hear and said loudly, "This young dragon is threatening us with a war between the dragon realm and the heaven realm? She scared me to death." Ha 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 ha. Even the rest of the cultivators burst into laughter. The rank 5 Earth Immortal of the Guiyuan sect looked at the girl in white and sneered. "Who do you think you are? A young dragon who is still wet behind the ears wants to start a war between realms?" The girl in white's threat was indeed ridiculous. After all, she was just a young dragon at LV1 of Earth Origin realm. It sounded like a fantasy that the entire dragon realm would start a war between realms because of a young dragon at LV1 of Earth origin realm. It was like a human Earth immortal dying in the dragon realm. Would the heaven realm start a war over such a trivial matter? A war between realms was very serious. Once the two realms started a war, countless powerhouses would be involved and countless living beings would be doomed eternally. Not to mention an Earth immortal. Even the death of a grotto heaven realm expert, or a noble in another realm, might not cause a realm war. According to the astral sect's secret, there was a noble from another realm who went on a killing spree in the divine firmament celestial realm, attracting the attention of the celestial emperor, who killed him. Even so, he had never heard of any realm waging war against the heaven realm. You guys! The white-clothed girl resisted while her cheeks puffed up in anger. She didn't know how to argue. Even if she doesn't start a realm war, my mother will still find you, tear you all to shreds, and eat you little by little. The white-clothed girl still didn't give up. Haha. The level 5 Earth immortal from the Dark Ice Valley could not help but laugh and said leisurely, "Little girl, you are still too young. Let me teach you some principles. As dragons, you came to my heaven realm's territory. Even if you fall here, you can't blame others." The rank 5 Earth immortal from the Gui Yuan sect looked at the girl in white and shook his head. "You are too naive. We'll capture you alive in a moment and take you away from this place. Who would know that it was us who took you away? Shameless and despicable humans." The white-clothed girl could not help but curse. This girl seemed to be really inexperienced. Even if she hated them to the core, the most she could do was to call them despicable and shameless. Here, the level 5 Earth immortal from the Dark Ice Valley took advantage of the girl in white's distraction and suddenly took out a magic treasure. It landed on the girl in white's body and instantly wrapped around her a few times. This was a silver rope, similar to the demon binding rope of the cultivation world. However, this rope had an additional transformation compared to the ordinary demon binding rope. The white-clothed girl screamed and tried to break free. The rope flashed with silver light and quickly formed layers of frost, emitting a bone-chilling coldness. Not to mention the white-clothed girl. Even Su Zimo, who was watching the battle not far away, felt a chill. The white-clothed girl's body was also covered with a layer of frost. The dragon blood in her body gradually condensed, and her movements became slower and slower. Soon, she would be captured alive by these cultivators. Seeing this, Su Zimo revealed himself and staggered toward the battlefield. "Damn it, why is it so noisy?" Su Zimo cursed while holding a wine jar in one hand. He did not know this white-clothed girl, and did not have any relationship with her. However, Su Zimo had an innate sense of closeness towards dragons. On one hand, this feeling came from the dragon phoenix essence spirit. On the other hand, it was also because the dragon phoenix true body lived, grew and cultivated among the dragons in Tianhuang mainland for many years. It was also because of the protection of the dragons and the help of Long Ran that the dragon phoenix true body could gradually grow and reach its peak, transforming into a taboo dragon phoenix. Therefore, Su Zimo did not want to stand by and do nothing when he saw the white-clothed girl in danger. All the cultivators present were shocked. The level 5 Earth immortals from the Dark Ice Valley, an origin returning sect, frowned slightly and looked over. Both of them scanned Su Zimo with their spiritual consciousnesses and heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that Su Zimo was only a level 4 Earth immortal. The Dark Ice Valley and origin returning sect are here to subdue demons. Those who have nothing to do with this, leave quickly before you are killed. The level 5 Earth immortal from the Dark Ice Valley glared at Su Zimo and threatened him coldly. "What the hell?" Su Zimo rolled his eyes drunkenly and curled his lips. "Dark Ice Valley and origin returning sect are nothing. I'm from the Myriad Stars sect. Who do you think you're trying to scare?" The white-clothed girl was surrounded and covered in injuries. She was in a critical situation and should not be laughing. However, when she saw Su Zimo spouting nonsense in a drunken stupor, she could not help but chuckle out loud despite the fact that it was truly interesting, and she was having a great time scolding him. Her heart was filled with anger, but she did not scold anyone. Su Zimo's words helped her vent the anger in her heart. However, the white-clothed girl soon realized that something was wrong and quickly shut her mouth. The level 5 Earth Immortals from the Dark Ice Valley, an origin-returning sect, looked gloomy and cold. If the opponent's cultivation level was high enough, they might be able to endure it. However, when they saw that a drunkard at level 4 of Earth origin dared to insult them, their hearts were filled with murderous intent. "I'll go and kill this person," the level 5 Earth Immortal from the origin-returning sect said through his spiritual consciousnesses. "Don't create unnecessary trouble." This drunkard was crazy and delirious. If they let him go, who knew what he would spread outside? If there were other experts in the Divine Clouds continent who knew that they had captured a baby dragon, they would definitely covet it. "Go and kill this person as soon as possible," the level 5 Earth Immortal from the Dark Ice Valley said in a deep voice. "This baby dragon is trapped by my dark ice lock. With me watching, she won't be able to escape." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.